wide receiver and one tight end offense, but now we
Yeah.
got three wideouts. I'll take it.
Gotta spread the field, man.
Oh man, much like this movie, rolling deep. Rolling
Bringing
deep.
back some guests from the past, you know.
Oh yeah. All right. Y'all ready to go?
I think our live stream is going to be popular tonight, so let me tweet this.
All right. We are live on quite literally every, like, I think, like, even like Twitter. Are we live on Twitter? I wish you could go live on Spaces. This is where this would live. But all right. So 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the One Take Podcast, episode 93. The biggest podcast that we have ever done. Not really. We've had five guests before, but considering the source material, biggest podcast we've ever done, most hype podcast that we've ever done. We were doing Spider-Man No Way Home. We were joined by Deontay Epps and Paul Catalina, each from their respective Baylor properties, Sikkim 365, as well as Our Daily Bears. Thank y'all for joining us.
Yeah.
Man, happy to be here, man. Excited to talk about this one.
We'll start with Paul. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
We claim Deontay as well. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
so yeah.
So,
Oh,
Paul,
geez.
you text me immediately, and you were like, both you and Deontay actually text me immediately. And were like, I have some thoughts.
I'm not surprised. Deontay and I spend enough time together that we do kind of run on the same wavelength a lot of the time, I think. But I like leaving that movie. Like the first thing I thought was like, bravo to the screenwriters who were pretty much like told, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put every Spider-Man in the movie. You're going to have to get that in. And don't worry about that. We're going to throw a bunch of money at people who don't want to do this anymore until they say yes.
Yeah.
We're going to Harrison Ford, Han Solo the shit out of these guys. Don't worry about it. And then you're also going to have to, make these old guys be viable villains again. And like, we're going to do all this and we're going to lay out on the table every problem that everybody's ever had with the Spider-Man movie. And we're going to solve it one by one. And then somehow make everybody not care that we're doing it that way.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just brilliant the way that they just kind of checked off every box of like, this is exactly what I want to see from a Spider-Man movie. And they also didn't bother to try to like reboot villains that, you can't outact Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina. You can't do it. So you're going to try to do another Green Goblin or Doc Ock. It's just going to feel lame. So just get those guys, yank him in from the other universe and make it work.
All right. We're starting off hot. By the way, we're going to try to do a couple of, obviously, if you haven't seen at this point, I don't know where you've been. This movie has made all the money. It has made every single bit of money that we have left in society, all of the currency. It has made close to 500 or over $500 million worldwide. 500 billion. It would be
China, right?
Yeah, without
No
China. Without China. We'll talk about this here in a second. By the way, we'll try to give reviews without spoiler alerts. Obviously, Paul just let one rip, but it's fine. Everybody knows. Everyone knows. If you're
listening to this podcast, I'm going to assume you've seen this movie at this point. Why are you listening to a No Way Home podcast on Tuesday or whenever this drops? And if you haven't seen this fucking movie already. Anyway.
I told people you have until Sunday night at 9 p.m. and then we're ruining the movie. Yeah, Dex, Tej, how we doing? Tej, you saw this twice with COVID.
Yes.
You don't have COVID, but you braved COVID.
Thank you for clarifying that. I saw it twice. I saw it for my second time today, and I will say every emotional beat of this film that made me cry the first time also made me cry the second time. It was no different. It was no different at all. It's incredible.
Dex, you saw it twice too?
Yeah, I just saw it for the second time today. It took my little brother to see it for the first time for him seeing it. Still bangs just as much as it did the first time I saw it. What a film. Let's discuss. Let's go.
I may or may not have seen a blurry copy. We won't talk about that. I saw that in the comfort of my living room today. So yeah. Anyway,
you had already seen it, right?
No, I saw it in theater. I saw it first out of every. I don't want to brag, but I was in there 3 p.m. on Thursday.
I remember you. I was jealous. I was like, bro, I got to get through this last class. And then,
yeah, I told my wife, I was like, I don't know what you had planned, but I'm going to be at Spider-Man. So she's like, oh, I'll go to. But yeah, it was just one of those things where I was like, this is the one time that I can go. So let's get into it. Spider-Man: No Way Home came out just a couple days ago. 9.1 on IMDb. It's actually what is the first most popular movie right now? The Power of the Dog is the first most popular movie on IMDb.
Disgusting. My God.
I have a written review of that movie on Apollo HOU. Go check it out.
Movie stinks.
PG-13, 2 hours and 28 minutes. It uses every bit of that. With Spider-Man's identity now revealed, Peter Parker asks Doctor Strange for help. When a spell goes wrong, dangerous foes from other worlds start to appear, forcing Peter to discover what it truly means to be Spider-Man. Written and directed by John Watts. Chris McKenna and Eric Summers also on the screenplay, based on the characters by Stan Lee. Has a 72 Metascore. Stars Tom Holland, Zendaya, Benedict Cumberbatch, Jacob Batalon. Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. As Ned, Jon Favreau, Jamie Foxx, Willem Dafoe, Alfred Molina, and Marissa Tomei, and then redacted. J.K. Simmons makes an appearance as well, back as J. Jonah Jameson, the only person that should play J. Jonah Jameson.
Starring as Alex Jones.
Yeah, quite literally. He sells supplements in the middle of the thing. They doubled
down on that. Like it was in the post-credits tease from Far From Home, it was like, oh, it's like an Alex Jones kind of thing. No. It's Alex Jones. Like it's totally 100% Alex Jones.
Yeah. And I mean, he even goes as far as to sell daily bugle supplements or whatever, like prisonplanet.com, prisonplanet. So yeah, this is the most popular MCU movie ever, by the way. Just is. You can argue about it may not be your favorite, may not be the best. It is the most popular movie outside of as far as critics go, outside of Black Panther, and by far the most successful with audiences. 94% Rotten Tomatoes, 99% audience score from Rotten Tomatoes. A bigger, bolder Spider-Man sequel, No Way Home, expands the franchise's scope and stakes without losing sight of its humor and heart. So all three of these been written and directed by John Watts. Incredible job by him. I'll start there. But Deontay, we'll start with you. Try to give it a spoiler-free review and a letter grade if you can. And obviously, if you can't, we're not going to cut it. So okay. It doesn't matter. Just go ahead.
Man, this, out of all the MCU movies, I feel like this was like fan service on top of fan service on top of fan service. Like everything, like you had mentioned before, everything that, fans wanted from a Spider-Man film. Of course, if you're a fan of previous non-MCU Spider-Man films, like this is everything you would want in a film. I'm a fanboy a lot on this. I mean, it's not a perfect movie. It's some stuff that, I could kind of see like, okay, they probably could have went here, but none of that really matters in the grand scheme of how I feel about it. Spoiler free, man, it's just like an emotional roller coaster. And I had heard like before they even when they were talking about the film, I think it was John Watts, maybe it was someone else talking about how this was like this movie could have been called Spider-Man Endgame, and like comparing it to Endgame, like emotional wise, the roller coaster of emotions and the tie-ins and the the MC humor that you always have and or MCU humor. It hits on that, but like everything you would want, man. I'm trying to stay spoiler free, but it encompasses like what you would want or what I wanted from Tom Holland. Like, and I like Tom Holland in Homecoming and from Far From Home, but like he actually takes this or what he done in the previous films and takes it to another level. And William Dafoe, you can't like you wouldn't think that he'd be able to top what he did in Spider-Man or the first Spider-Man. But man, like I felt like I was watching the Joker MCU. We know Green Goblin is crazy, but like when we get into the scenes, I'll talk about it. But I felt like I was watching like the MCU Joker version, you know what I'm saying? But man, it was great, man. I give it an A. I haven't got to see it the second time to kind of see different stuff that I missed, but overall, man, it's everything that you would want, like everything you want.
Yeah. Oh, I will say this. Anything that you think probably happens.
Mm-hmm.
By the way. So if you're sitting here going like, but we'll get to it. But I'm just saying, whatever you think happens, probably happens. And that's where the fan service bit comes in. Paul, you gave a little bit of a review earlier. Deontay, did you give a grade?
Yeah, I give it an A, man. A plus. Yeah. A plus.
All right. Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry about the spoiler earlier, but I mean,
it's not.
The thing. Look, if you read anything about this movie going on, like, it's. I'll just say it. This is the least spoilery thing I can say to maybe undo what I just did. If you were on the internet reading anything about this movie in the year before it came out, like there weren't any lies. Like nothing. There was no like out and out lie on the internet about it. Like nothing was false. I
want to interrupt you for 1 second. Sony is so freaking bad at everything when it comes to leaks. They're the worst. They're absolutely the worst. They just have dudes on set with just like camera phones, just like taking pictures or whatever.
I mean, look, the only reason we even have this is because Sony didn't have a good web server. So, like this is the only reason it happened is because they got their emails hacked by China.
It's happened so many times with Sony that you're just like, and Kevin Feige has to be like, what do I got to do, man? What do I got to do?
Well, you keep messing this strategy up. Is to tell everybody like, I don't know, just say no, just keep, going through, but I'll tell you that for a movie that the biggest problem with Spider-Man movies in the past, at least the one is they overstuff them. There's too much. They don't Spider-Man 1 and 2 with Tobey Maguire are fantastic movies. The Amazing Spider-Man movies have a really good Spider-Man and really, wonky villains. And, they're kind of like Andrew Garfield's fantastic. Emma Stone was fantastic. Everyone else is kind of just in their orbit in those movies. And it doesn't work. If Jamie Foxx was bad in his Spider-Man movie, and Jamie Foxx isn't bad in most things that he does. He's Jamie Foxx. I mean, but he wasn't good. And
he picks bad projects, but he's not bad around them. I guess.
But as far as Amazing Spider-Man 2, he wasn't good. And this movie managed to kind of just fix all that stuff and
crazy.
Give it a reason for existing and making everybody who wanted all these things to come together. And there's not a boring part of the movie. It doesn't drag, it doesn't, it just goes. There's beats, there's everything you want to do. The jokes are great. Everybody interacts really well together. And to echo what Deontay said, again, like are you going to cast another Green Goblin who can outdo Willem Dafoe? Like, do you want to make them Jared Leto after, after Heath Ledger? Like you can't really do it. I think that's the coolest thing about Kevin Feige is that he just goes, okay, I'm not doing that. Like those people screwed that up and we're not going to do that here. Like we've got the most valuable movie properties in the world. We're just not going to screw it up. Like it may not be the best thing in the world, but we're not going to just wreck it. We're not going to do it to where, we're not going to Joel Schumacher up a Batman. We're going to do it at least as right as we can. And I think that was, I mean, again, to get all this stuff in and not make the movie feel overloaded and like, oh, well, they had to shoehorn that in is, I mean, a screenwriting feat unlike I've never seen. So A plus to everybody who made this movie.
A credit, and I said it at the beginning of the reviews, but a credit to John Watts because like everybody's talking about Tom Holland and Kevin Feige and all the rest of the cast and everything. That dude really just has directed. He basically directed an Avengers film, which is like that's crazy to me. After doing these two kind of solo Spider-Man movies, smaller scale, I guess, but like they're just like, hey, by the way, do you know the Russos? You got their number? You might want to call them. Yeah. So Dex, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I don't. It's got to be an A plus. I don't see how you can give it any other grade. Like this is everything that I wanted it to be and more. Honestly, like throughout the movies and day is talking about, if you just expect disappointment, you won't actually be disappointed. Royden tried to do that same exact shit like before this movie dropped. He was like, oh, I think we're overhyping it. I don't think it's going to be that good. I think, we
did not
probably
say that.
overhyped it. He definitely said, he said that like 18 times. But like this movie just exceeded all expectations for me somehow. And my expectations were already stupid high. Like, and I tweeted this already. Tom Holland is my GOAT, my Spider-Man. Like, I respect what Tobey Maguire did. Andrew Garfield, he got a bad break with how terrible those movies are outside of him. But Tom Holland is that guy. He is Peter Parker to me, like definitively. And this movie just really proved that for me, because his journey from Homecoming, just being this kind of sleepy kid who's got powers and is trying to go to the prom and all this other shit or whatever. And or I guess Homecoming, not prom. Anyway,
it's in the title, Dex. Come on.
Yeah, you're right. I'm bad at reading. Anyway, so going from being that kid to accepting like all of what being Spider-Man entails and how you can't live this double life and keep getting away with it, which is something that we've seen kind of all the other MCU heroes just not even really deal with. They're just their same. Like Steve Rogers is Steve Rogers everywhere he goes. Everyone's like, oh, that's Captain America. Let me get a pic. Like, we're going to make a musical about you, blah, blah, blah. Even
Tony Stark is fine with being famous. Like he wanted to be famous.
Hawkeye is going to dinner with his family and people are like, you're Hawkeye. I'm going to buy your dinner. Like,
your meal.
Yeah. Peter Parker has been the only one that's like still got a secret identity and like trying to stay away from everyone. I really like how this movie played with that. Then obviously all the stuff that they fit in with all the characters from the other movies, I thought was just perfect. I was expecting for them to just kind of have them just show up and be like, oh, look, it's that one. I remember him. Look, it's Electro. He was in another movie. Cool, bye. Like, no, they were actually characters in this movie. Each of them had like an arc or something they were going through, except Sandman. Sandman got kind of short shrift, but everybody else.
No one gives a damn.
Like, man, I'm just trying to go home.
I was just trying to go home, bros. Like, why am I here?
Yeah, Sandman and the Lizard, the two least interesting villains that they've had in the Spider-Man franchises, are the ones that like don't really have much going on in this movie.
Wait,
but
don't forget about Rhino, who they made a joke about, who was not even worthy of being in this film. Thank God they didn't put Rhino in this film.
Yeah,
Paul Giamatti's like, I'll be in anything. Like, why would I not in this movie?
I'll be in anything.
But yeah, they made them actual characters.
He wouldn't have fit. He didn't know. Like, he wasn't one of the ones who knew.
Oh yeah,
that's
brought him
true.
in.
Thank God.
But yeah, they made it work. They're not just like glorified cameos. They're actual characters with stuff to do, and you get cool fight scenes. You get cool comedy, and it all adds to Tom Holland's Peter's journey. It's dope. I laughed. I cried. I was like emotionally torn to bits the first time I saw this movie. A plus. It gets no better. You can't do it any better than he did it.
Tej?
This is easily an A plus. This John Watts' love letter to the previous two Spider-Man films, or three Spider-Man films from Raimi, and the Andrew Garfield ones. I thought they did a really good job of basically paying tribute to those movies and playing on the nostalgia, this blatant fan service, but we love those movies. Well, at least we love the Raimi movies, and we love Andrew Garfield, despite the fact that those movies aren't very good. We still appreciated the fact that Andrew Garfield did a good job in his performance, and that stuff outside of the obvious stuff, that stuff is so important, and it's nobody that was in this movie, I was surprised to see them on screen because so much of the stuff had gotten out. It didn't affect my viewing of the movie at all. I still had an amazing time. Every time somebody popped on the screen that wasn't in the trailer, I still had a, oh my God, they're here, like moment, even though there had been pretty much this whole plot has been out on the internet for about 1.5 years now because Sony's awful and can't control anything. It didn't matter. The movie was so well made and they hit all the emotional points. There are times I cried because I was happy. There were times I cried because I was sad. Right. And I wouldn't say I cry a lot in movies, but I'm not also a person who is opposed to crying in movies. If the movie makes me cry, I just cry. I didn't think that it would hit me the same way emotionally the second time, just because I already know what's going to happen. It didn't matter. It's like the way they set these things up, without getting into too much detail before we start spoiling, the way they set it all up was just like perfect fan service. And I hate when people use fan service in a negative light. We are sitting in the movie theater. We quite literally want to be entertained. So give me the fan service. And don't give me nothing but fan service. You know why we're here. And these people, John Watts knew why we were sitting down in the movie theater. We've seen Spider-Man movies before. We've seen your 2 previous Spider-Man movies. We already like this Spider-Man. Give us this swan song to the Spider-Man of the past that we still have a connection to all these years later. I was in high school when the Raimi Spider-Man were being made, and I was obsessed with them. I loved them. Not as much, they weren't as good as these movies that we get now, but we also don't get these movies that we have now without those movies and the way that it showed. How do you show certain things from the Spider-Man universe? How do we show the Peter tingle? How do we show the fact that this kid knows something's going to happen before it happens? How do we creatively show that in a movie? There's just so much stuff in this movie that's a direct homage to those films, and that's just fun from a film nerd perspective, but also just fun as a person who's a nerd and likes comic books, and I love Spider-Man. So kind of seeing this collage of different moments from Spider-Man was just amazing. Obviously, like I said, Willem Dafoe is just out of his mind great in this film. And
impossibly great. It was crazy.
It's crazy because they understood, like Alfred Molina is also great in this film, but they understood the person we're going to highlight and sit in the big villain chair is going to be Dafoe. He's going to have the big moments with our Spider-Man. And Alfred Molina, while great, it was clear that William Dafoe is going to drop 55 tonight. We got to ride the hot hand. Just keep giving him the ball. And there were moments in the movie where they're dealing with the other villains, and you just know that Dafoe is waiting out there. And still, when he comes back into the movie, I'm just like, yes, like he's back. Like it's just Tom Holland is giving us all the emotional beats that we need. The comedy's still there. I was kind of blown away with it, and my expectations were sky high, and I was still kind of blown away with it. So I'll give it an A+.
The other thing I like about what they did with Dafoe is that, and this we'll get into in the plot of the plot of the movie and the scenes, but Spider-Man villains are the best villains of most because like they're not necessarily all bad. Yep. Doc Ock wasn't like Otto Octavius wasn't a bad guy. Electro wasn't a bad guy. Flint Marco, was going under a hard time, but he wasn't necessarily, bad to the core. He was just pushed to certain limits. Kirk Connors was trying to, do great things in science to help people, that were amputees, all the trying to do good things to help people, but of those, the Goblin and Norman Osborn is really the only true, and even though they kind of, he gives a little more emotional weight in this movie, he's the bad guy. He's the one who's like the bad guy of the Spider-Man universe. He's a bad guy. He's a bad, Norman Osborn is pretty much through all Marvel comics, no matter in his good times and bad, he's still kind of a bad guy. And so that's why you make him the baddest bad guy, because he's probably the baddest one of all of them. He's the one who was greedy and all this other stuff and had all these, of the 7 deadly sins, Goblin checks off most of them before he was even a bad guy.
Yeah. I'm just going to read my favorite review from this movie. I think I sent it to y'all, but it was a letterbox review that said 9 out of 10 stars. And the only review was Willem Dafoe beat the shit out of that little boy. I laughed so hard. Hard. He powerbombed him.
He did a spine buster on him. I almost fainted in the movie theater.
Through 8 stories of building. Shit was crazy.
William Dafoe's in what? He's in a 66.
66.
He's doing spine busters. It's amazing.
And apparently he did his own stunts for this too.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. There was a clip that I saw from the interview. He had saying when they pitched the idea to him, he was like, "I'm only doing it if I get to do most of the stunts," and he felt like that was part of bringing life to the character, him being able to have fun with it. And yeah, man, that particular scene, I know we'll get into it. There were a lot of scenes that I don't think we've seen in the MCU Spider-Man. As far as the combat, it felt violent. In Far From Home, we saw him fight. I mean, it was Mysterio doing all the tricks on him and stuff like that.
Yep. He's always getting hit by stuff or having a building dropped on him or something like that.
Yeah, this shit was brutal.
This was violence.
Right. WWE street brawl match. It's crazy.
He was crazy, man.
Me versus you. I'm about to beat the shit out of you.
Oh my God. It just, it was send an ambulance, but not for me. And I don't know, man. Dex is right. I remember saying on this podcast or after the podcast a couple weeks ago, I was hedging my bets because unlike my two other co-hosts here, I had watched all of the promotional material and kind of a disservice to myself, but I love Spider-Man. It's the first comic book movie I ever saw in theaters. My grandfather took me to see it. It holds a special place in my heart for me. So I am always hyped when a Spider-Man movie comes out, as are a lot of people. I'm not special, but I'm just saying this is like, I watched all the promotional material. I watched like compilations of people putting the trailers together to like make a timeline of the movie. And so I got to the point in my psyche where I was like, ooh, did I just play myself? I was kind of just like, I was hedging because I was like, I don't know, man, it's Sony. Like I distrusted the mouse. I didn't trust.
You didn't believe in our mouse overlords.
Hey,
I didn't believe.
Yeah.
You got the Mickey Mouse overlords. I didn't trust our God, Kevin Feige, because he was also low key. He was also a part of those awful Spider-Man movies. Like he was also a producer on those movies too. Yep. So like, yeah, they haven't made Tom Holland in the MCU hasn't been bad this entire time from Civil War on. It's just been fun. It's been what everyone like. What Stan Lee said, he's exactly what Peter Parker was supposed to be when they casted him. Like, okay, you got his blessing before you died. You can't really go before he died. You can't really go wrong. So I didn't trust Kevin Feige a little bit. I kind of got wayward on that because I'm like, ooh, Sony's going to find a way to mess this up because the two Venom movies have been bad. Morbius looks awful. Like it really does.
Oh my goodness.
I can't wait to talk about those Venom movies. I have a lot of takes.
Yeah, the first one was fun, but apparently the second one is awful in like an hour and 30 minutes. Like
here's what I'll tell you, because the second one is shorter, I liked it more for and the reason I watch it is because Carnage is the bet. Like Carnage is a next level great Marvel villain if you do him right, and Woody Harrelson playing him makes a ton of sense. But you know,
is that voiceover how those movies sound? I've never seen one of these Venom movies. There's no way I could watch 5 hours of that. I was annoyed that whole post-credit scene. I was like, this is cool, but holy shit, this is annoying to listen to. It annoyed me to no end.
Yeah.
My problem with Venom 2 is that it tried to do the so bad that it's actually kind of good thing that Venom 1 did on accident. It tried to do that on purpose. And it's like, you can't do that. Like it's got to be accidentally so bad that it's good.
A friend of mine was texting me and he's like, there was no context to the post-credit scene, and I was like, well, you have to see the post-credit scene from Let There Be Carnage for it to make sense, which is the only reason I really watched it.
That's the only thing I watched from that movie.
You can find it. You can find it on YouTube literally within the day. They were like, this is the only thing that matters.
And the thing that makes it worse about that post-credit scene is if you line up the reason in the movie that all the people get sucked into the universe, it only makes sense in that there's one line that the symbiote says to him before it happens that makes you go, okay, this is why it works, because apparently the symbiotes have traveled throughout universes and they have this like all-consuming knowledge of the
hive mind sort of thing,
the cosmos together. So that's why it would make sense and he would get pulled through because of that. But
so I just, not to get too deep into the weeds, I was hedging my bets, but to say that I was in shock leaving the movie that they were able to pull this off is an understatement, because we all kind of realized what was going to happen after Infinity War. We were just kind of like, yeah, they're going to make it work. You know what I mean? But to have all of these older actors who have since moved on from these projects, one who we'll get into it actively is an asshole and hates these projects too, like notable asshole, and to have everyone back and to not only that, but to keep the focus on Tom Holland, to keep the focus on his relationships within the universe, what he's struggling with, to have Holland actually give him emotional beats and stuff. but also to not make all of these villains seem like a FaceTime call with each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was the one blurb that I read there of a negative review. I forget who it was, but they said it feels like a Zoom call with all of people from your past. And I was like, I don't agree with that, because they found a way to somehow mix and mingle these villains. The one thing, I mean, Dex, you talked about it in our text group. You got to take some leaps with this movie. You got to be down. You got to be really, really down. And maybe people like purists will be like, but actually you can't time travel through the merch. Shut up. I don't care. I don't care. I was able to sit down and just be able to like go with the ride easy enough.
Just let it wash over you.
Yeah, exactly. Just have Dr. Strange tell you this is what Exposition Strange tell you. This is what's happening. And this is why it's happening. And then I was just like, fine, whatever. If Benedict Cumberbatch wants that to be, okay, sure. Like if he told me, that's fine. So that's where I would kind of take points off. Where it ranks in the MCU ratings is an ever-flowing scale. But Tej, you were talking about it. This is fan service galore. And this is the exact opposite of what the Eternals was. Like we didn't hate the Eternals on this podcast, but it was one of those things where we left being like, man, I didn't have much fun.
Yeah.
I did not have a lot of fun with that movie. This completely opposite. It's the most fun I've had in the theater in years. And it's probably the most fun that I've had since Infinity War Endgame for sure. I had a good time with Shang-Chi, but that's a whole completely different thing. I just think the job of the studios to come together and figure this out, to give fans a swan song to these things that kind of were left unresolved with a shitty for lack of a better term, a shitty third installment of the Raimi trilogy. Awful. That movie stinks. I don't care. I don't want to hear like it's better than you remember. It's not. It's terrible. It's awful. It's very bad. And then like too hard done by Andrew Garfield movies that was like Sony hubris being like, we can do this. No, you can't.
So Sony also had the problem. And by the way, I don't know if you guys saw, but Marvel and Sony have confirmed that like, this is not the end. We're not going to do the whole Spider-Man scare of 2019 again. We're not doing that. People got too mad. And plus the other thing is COVID has probably necessitated them going like, all right, well, we've all lost so much money. Let's put aside the pride and just make it all back on this one guy.
Nah, ain't no we on this. Sony has lost so much money.
Yeah,
Disney is like, we good over here, bro. I don't know what y'all lost, but
Disney's
is open, baby. Come on,
but Disney's happy to take their share. They don't need, they made it through fine, and they're happy to grift off of Sony as well and do that. But to that end, like Sony was trying to do those two Andrew Garfield movies as we've already seen Iron Man, we've already seen Thor, we've already seen this stuff that's interconnected, and then we're like watching that going like, well, he
it's the end here,
like he lived like Spider-Man lives in that world for all of us who grew up fans of it, like, and he's the bet, like, no matter what people think about Iron Man now, like when they made that movie, Iron Man was like such a distant character to Marvel. Like he was definitely like a third-rate character. He was important within the Marvel universe, but the reason that Marvel was able to make that movie is because nobody gave a shit. Nobody cared. So like but then like you think like if they can do this well with Iron Man and a character I really was like, yeah, he's fine. Sure, if he's in something with the Hulk, I'll watch that. But make that and then like, well, then what can they do with Spider-Man? Because again, from the third Raimi Spider-Man, where Tobey Maguire was clearly checked out, and and then Raimi wasn't really getting to do what he wanted to do, and then they couldn't get the fourth one together, which is probably good news because it probably wouldn't have been good.
Good for all of us that they didn't get the fourth one together.
Yeah. Also, Raimi wanted to do too much, entirely too much. Let's be clear.
I always thought the thing about the third Raimi movie is like you have Venom. You don't need Sandman, and you could have not had Harry.
He didn't want to include Venom.
Yeah, but I mean, like if you have Venom, you have enough. If you do that right, you know,
they force
because
him
of-
to put the Venom part in, but it's clear that either you make the Venom movie or you make whatever movie Raimi wants to make, but they tried to make them both and it just blew up in their faces. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. So, you know, they finally figured out a way to do it that just, you know, and not reinvent, like they kind of reinvented the reel and didn't make us, and we're fine with it. Like they, you know,
I give this movie an A, just because of the leaps that you kind of have to take in some of the things and the plot holes that you can poke into it. I think it, but I agree. It's like a 95. Like it's the most fun that I could possibly have in a movie. It doesn't carry the same weight necessarily as Endgame or Infinity War for me, but it definitely is MCU rankings. Man, it's right there. So that's all of our.
Let's stop right there for a second. I want to talk about that because I think it might actually carry a little more weight than Endgame for me. I want to see how y'all feel about that. The rest of
I agree. But I love Endgame. I don't understand why Endgame sits in the seat that most people put it in when Infinity War is right there and it's the better movie to me. Like
I feel Infinity War is better. It's like Empire Strikes Back, but like, yeah, I don't, you know.
Yeah, I think Infinity War is better too, but I think Endgame, obviously, I love Endgame. Super emotional. It's like a really good like closing to like that chapter of the MCU and everything. But like we always knew like there was more coming with those characters. Like after that, I think with No Way Home, it's like this is our send off to. Are we just gonna like start saying
all right,
who else is in this movie?
Yes, we can get into it.
Real quick. If you're watching on live stream and you haven't seen this movie, I don't know why you're watching, but thank you.
Appreciate the clicks.
Spoiler alert. I'll try to put the time codes into the description. I'll try to put the time codes into the description.
If you care about spoilers, turn this off right now because we might spoil the shit out of this movie.
Right? Meow.
Okay, but like this, we're sending off Tobey Maguire, we're sending off Andrew Garfield. Like this is it for them, and I thought it did a great job of that. And that I don't know, it feels like that meant a little more to me just because it was so final. Like this is the end of it, it's done. It like rewrote Andrew Garfield history basically.
Yeah,
we all were just like, man, Andrew Garfield really was good, huh? Those movies weren't complete trash. Like he was really good. And you get all these moments where he's like talking about it feels like he's talking about kind of the real life, like, yeah, I just needed to hear that I was amazing. Like, and that everybody loves me and that, you know, I did a good job, blah, blah, blah. Like I felt like
I don't know about y'all, man. My theater freaked out when he came through the portal. Even more so than Tobey Maguire. When he came through the portal, and I think it's because he came first. When he came first, everyone lost their minds. It was crazy.
They did that on purpose because obviously people have a lot more affinity for the other movies, the Tobey movies. So I like that they introduced him first. And both my theaters erupted when he popped up on screen.
Incredible content.
What's super cool about that, man, and something that I liked how they did the, you know, bringing those guys in was like going into it, like we all heard, okay, they're possibly in this movie. So you're expecting, or I at least expected them to come out like in the middle of a fight, you know, they just hop through the portals or something like that. But I like the way they use Ned. I guess they dropped little hints earlier in the movie how Ned said, or he was talking to Doctor Strange about how, you know, his family said they had some type of, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it kind of hinted at
a hand stingle. It was like, you need to go to the doctor. That's diabetes.
Right. Yeah. The hint that he could possibly have some kind of power. And I like the device to use Ned to bring him in, like, especially at the time where Tom Holland, Spider-Man, or Peter Parker needed him. And like, instead of bringing him in a fight, like they brought him in on like, you know, in the room where they like looking for Peter Parker, or they, you know, they're trying to find Tom Holland. And then it's like, okay, fine, give me Peter Parker. And then at that moment, like when it opened, the whole, like you said, the whole theater just like going crazy and hoping that he comes to it because he starts running through the portal. And but yeah, I like the way of using him that way for their interests, compared to like just jumping out in the fight. And then I think Dex had mentioned this earlier about them actually building up the previous characters, not just using them like, hey, here's a cameo from somebody from a previous Spider-Man. They had them actually talk to each other. Actually, the Science Bros scene where they're all talking about
the web,
McGuire's web coming out. Just the interaction. It seems like they had worked together before. Like they gelled really well as the Peter Parkers. I enjoyed that.
I had always said that no one has been in a movie more than Andrew Garfield was in this movie. He's a terrible liar, and
horrible liar.
Yeah, and so to see him in, and I will say, for a lot of people, like my sister loves those movies and loves Andrew Garfield because like she was like 8 or 9 when those movies came out or whatever. That's like our Spider-Man. There were so many teenagers in the back, like 20-year-olds in the back of the theater going, he's so hot.
I like that they essentially made a scene out of the meme. We're gonna make a whole scene out of the meme, and then we're gonna should have run that joke, over and over and over again. We're not gonna do that. We're also gonna put it like we're gonna put them together before the last scene, and then have them hash out all of the like differences in their movies and what people complain about. Like the whole scene about Tobey Maguire's back. That's why he didn't do Spider-Man 4. Is he hurt his back doing
or why he tried to back out of Spider-Man 2 to get more money because he had back problems.
So, and then they talk about like, the villains, like, Andrew Garfield's villains are kind of lame. Like, I'm lame, and like, no, you're then like you guys said, you're amazing. And that's the title of his movies. And, like all those things that were inside jokes, I thought were really well done. And, I was 20 when the first Spider, when did it come out?
2002.
The first one was 2002?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was 22 when it came out.
Because there's promotional material with the Twin Towers in like where he webs a helicopter between the Twin Towers, and they're like, delete, just
delete. So in 2002, when it came out, and like I remember thinking, like there was no better person to play Spider-Man than Tobey Maguire, but even
supposed
then,
to be Leo, right?
What?
It was supposed to be Leo.
That.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have hated it, but I would hate it now.
Look, I love DiCaprio. That guy throws heat most of the time, but he would have been like the whole part about Spider-Man is like you said, his life is total garbage. It's total garbage. His whole life is really hard.
Before I started the podcast, I'm sorry, Paul, but before I started the podcast, the best tweet that I saw about this was No Way Home is fantastic because they really hammer home the point that Peter Parker's life is absolute shit.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's like he's had a rough life. There is not like if you look at the movies that Leo DiCaprio does that have been great, in none of them has his life been terrible, except for Gilbert Grape, and even then, it's not really that bad, as it could be, And
it's not his fault.
Yeah, but like you're gonna like, is Leo DiCaprio gonna be the guy, especially in 2002 when he's fresh off of Titanic? A couple years earlier,
right?
Like every girl in America wants to blow Leo DiCaprio, and then you're gonna put him in as Spider-Man, like a guy who's like completely down on his luck, not gonna work. Well, cast his best friend, like that's the guy, cast Cider House Rules. That guy will get it done. So
no, let's kind of go through it. I know we kind of got sidetracked because we wanted to skip to the obvious biggest thing of this movie. What I want to know though is how much did they pay Tobey Maguire to be in this movie? Because he actively does not want to do movies anymore. He was like in Boss Baby, and that was the last thing that he was in. And he didn't even want to do promotion for that. They had to have paid him like $3 million to be like, look,
it was worth every penny.
Yeah, it paid tenfold.
I think it might have even been more than that. I mean, like, honestly, just to get him in. I think they probably used the same strategy they used for Harrison Ford in Star Wars. Harrison Ford was on with Star Wars for almost 40 years before they yanked him back into it.
Have you heard the clip of Harrison Ford being like, they go, did Greedo shoot first or did Han shoot first? And he goes, I don't care.
Yeah.
He just goes, I don't care. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. There's also a great one of somebody asking him if he would like to see a younger actor be Indiana Jones. He goes, "No, I'm him. He's me. I'm Indiana Jones."
That's how much he doesn't care about Star Wars.
No, I don't care. He's me. And he basically saying like, look, there won't be. After I'm done, there's not going to be. But I think with Tobey Maguire, they had to pay him a good amount because again, like I think keep wondering like when he's going to do another movie, and because they all cave, they all cave eventually. And
those box office points, baby. That's all it was.
Yeah, probably. I just keep picturing like Kevin Feige showing up with like black cars and dudes in sunglasses and suits like the mafia and just being like, I got a proposition for you. Let me in this, he's a New York Italian. I got a proposition for you. Let me tell you something. Spidey, we want you in here. Millions of dollars on the plate. Take it or leave it. And he just like briefcase with gold bullion or something like that. He just leaves on his desk and he's like, what was that? Do
you want me, the king of Disney, to tell people that we were gonna make a Spider-Man movie with every fucking Spider-Man?
Yeah. That's it.
But Tobey Maguire said he was too tired.
Yeah. You're too good for the mouse.
Well, and the thing is they don't he doesn't have to do near as much work as he had to do on the other Spider-Man movies. Like just stand there. I mean, and then
we'll animate the rest of your like fighting and stuff like that.
Yeah, at no point does he have to do anything, physical at all. Like he doesn't have to, just show up thin enough to where we can make it work and go. Like that was easy money for Tobey Maguire. Like I guarantee you he got the pages the day before he got there. Like,
my one thing about Tobey Maguire, and then we'll move on to like the rest of the movie, but like my one thing about Tobey Maguire is that made me laugh out loud when he came through the portal kind of is that he looks every bit of 46 years old. Boy, did he looks tired. It was just like he looked as old as Alfred Molina. It was unbelievable.
It's just a random guy.
Yeah, and they make fun of him a little bit, but like it was crazy, and that's why I don't know how this like they called him. Yeah, do you have your suit or you're a hip youth pastor? Yeah. But I was like, okay, so where are they pulling them out of this universe? And that's kind of the downfall because like Andrew Garfield is near 40, but like he still looks like a movie star. Like Tobey Maguire could give a shit. He likes playing poker and making money. Like he doesn't care. Like, so like Andrew Garfield still has that movie star sheen to him. Tom Holland still looks like a teenager. Tobey Maguire looked like he was their dad. He was so old. Just comparatively, it's crazy. But that's why I was like, where do they pull him? What year did they pull him out of when all the other people look like they're like pulled right out of time? And obviously they did some de-aging on Alfred Molina, maybe a little on Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe looks the exact same. That's crazy. How's that possible?
The exact same.
Let's go down the line. Obviously, the movie starts with Peter Parker having it starts where the last movie ends out. He gets his identity revealed. That part of the movie, I like the chaoticness of the intro where they make the sex joke in this Disney movie, which is really funny. And like, I don't know what to do. What happened? And they do all that, but they really just brush off the kill Mysterio thing in 5 minutes. It's like, it's just done. I thought that was really funny. They're just like, don't worry about it. Whatever.
The scene with Hannibal Buress, when they go to the high school and Hannibal Buress is a conspiracy theorist, is just so funny, man. That it's just so the comedic timing between JB Smoove and Hannibal Buress is just so good for that little scene. I loved it. The second time I watched, I was like, "Wow, this scene is
you made that shrine. You made that. Nobody
made that."
I tried to stop him.
Hannibal had the great line in Homecoming, which he's like, "We're showing you this video. This guy's basically a war criminal right now."
Yeah, when he was on the run. Yeah.
But he was showing the Captain America thing.
Captain America. Yeah.
The Captain America thing. But they did. But of course, I think part of that was they had to build something out to get Matt Murdock in, and so and.
I mean, obviously that goes spoiler hand in hand with Hawkeye too, because they just revealed, like, I thought that was the one thing that I was like shocked about this movie, besides one of the bigger spoilers down the line that Sony somehow didn't let get out about Aunt May. But like he literally was in this movie for 3 minutes.
Right.
If that, he really was not in this movie. I thought he was going to have a little bit more to do. Or more to like that. Basically just felt like Kevin Feige being like, shut up. Okay, we'll bring him back.
I wonder how much he got paid to be on set for one day.
Yeah. And what's so cool about that is like how it kind of lined up. Are y'all caught up on Hawkeye?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Kind of like how Kingpin
gets revealed.
Right. Like the same week that Matt Murdock is showing up, all the Netflix Marvel characters coming together. And then so I think that part was planned, but like even and I'm skipping far ahead, I know we'll get to the rest, but at the very end, when Peter's swinging through, the city, at the end, he's at, the Rockefeller Center, which if you've seen like the previews for the finale, that's where, the parts of the finale are at the Rockefeller Center with Hawkeye, Kate Bishop. So that'd be kind of,
if Tom Holland is in the
wild, bro.
If he is in the end of Hawkeye, I will throw up, cry, and
it's at the same time.
Shit and die.
We saw the Rogers musical when they were swinging through. So that's a little.
I would fucking love that.
Like in the Mirror Universe, you saw it was Christmas time. Like they've had the Christmas music going. So I mean, all the pieces are there. We'll see what happens.
That would be fire.
Yeah.
Well, so Marvel has been known to take stuff out of trailers, which they totally did with this movie too. Like they just took stuff out of trailers or took stuff out of context, changed lines, all that stuff. It wouldn't surprise me if Kevin Feige was like, you thought, like you really thought.
True.
But yeah, this is the one time where I have felt with Marvel properties that they have like kind of caved a little bit on fans being like, we want the thing, and they did it.
But the one thing, but Kevin Feige didn't have any hand in those series, which is when his like one true power play in his life was
the Netflix series. Yeah. He hates those.
Was when they're like, listen, we're going to do our own thing and I'm going to be in charge of it. That way we don't have to figure this out. But, he's also like, the thing that's so good about him is he also knows like, well, everybody liked that show. It was a good show. Like it was Daredevil was good. You can review the other ones to whatever degree. Like I would rank them Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and then Iron Fist. I choose to believe it doesn't really exist on the same plane. But like, and like Luke Cage is always one of my favorites, and I felt they like almost got him right, but but with Daredevil they got it right. Like they caught it completely right. So don't like Kingpin was great. Like don't change Vincent D'Onofrio. Are you going to get a better actor than Vincent D'Onofrio to play him? No. Like, are you going to get somebody who clearly wants to play Daredevil? Unlike
fans want to play, right?
Like you want like somebody who wants to do it, and then everybody likes doing it. Then we'll just make it work. Like, you don't have to spend, and like he also proved you don't have to spend a whole lot of time explaining like away the stories of the other thing. Like you can start your own thing with that and then move on. There's enough in the comic book world that doesn't need explaining. So yeah, bring them in. Like,
yeah, look, what I like to go ahead.
The other thing I think it does is Kingpin is not only the best Daredevil villain, he's also one of the top 4 or 5 Spider-Man villains. So it allows you to use Kingpin. It gives you a door for Kingpin to swing into Spider-Man in the future, which I think he'll totally do. And that way you can have him as a big bad throughout the MCU and not have to be like, oh, where'd he come out of? Well, they've been setting this up for a while. So
yeah,
I will say one of the big differences between seeing this movie Thursday night and seeing it Sunday afternoon when Charlie Cox showed up on the screen Thursday night, everyone went fucking crazy.
Nuts. Went bananas in my
Sunday
theater.
afternoon, no one reacted at all. Zero. Like, no chuckles, no like applause, nothing. Everyone like stone faced.
They didn't even realize it was Daredevil. Who's this lawyer with the cane? Like,
yeah, like why he got all these red glasses? What's that? Like, why can he catch bricks out of the sky? What?
no. I one thing I do like about this, I like that Jon Favreau, I mean, obviously he has his hand in a million things. He's like the creator of now like 18 Disney universes, and like, but he still will show up in these to be like the kind of uncle or father figure person, the guide to Spider-Man. I love the dynamic between him and Marissa Tomei. It's so funny to me every single time. He's like, you need space. Well, I can give you like, what is space? Like, I can, and she's like, she's obviously too hot for him. And just, it's just, I love it. I love that whole bit that they've done through a couple of movies now.
We'll hang out again. When do you think? Like,
yeah.
Think soon?
Yeah. But yeah, they do really explain away the Mysterio thing, the legality of the Mysterio thing really quickly. It goes like in good, like they didn't need to spend a ton of money on it or time on it, both. It just goes away, but like the ramifications of that are still there. Like everyone knows now that I am Spider-Man and he doesn't want that.
Mean, it doesn't really go away at all. Like that's the whole reason the movie happens. Like it's,
but I was talking about. I thought it was like, oh, he might go to jail. Like, no.
I mean, he wasn't gonna go to jail. Like, what are they gonna do? They'd be like, yeah, we saw it. No,
but that also feeds into the whole Alex Jones part of it. In that, you know, everything that J. Jonah Jameson says is bullshit. Yeah. So, like, while he has this, like, the reason that Alex Jones has been any kind of successful is 99.999% of the things he says are total lies and bullshit. But if he has one thing that's true, which is Peter Parker as Spider-Man, then that means that he's legitimate to all these people who believe him. Like, you know, that's all that people believe. Well, he wasn't lying about this. Well, yeah. Okay.
I just needed Jameson to come out and like, I couldn't recall because I had a big bowl of chili that day.
Two more things on J. Jonah Jameson / Alex Jones. Can you imagine if like every time the Alex Jones like went live or something, they like went to Times Square?
Billboard.
Times Square.
They're just like, okay, everyone, stop what you're doing in New York City right the fuck now. Alex Jones is on. You're all watching this shit. Second, I kept waiting for Tobey Maguire to be like, wait a minute, that's my boss. Like, what the fuck are you doing here? But like they just never referenced that he was also in the other movies. I thought they could have done something with that, but you know, whatever, can't do it all.
Yeah, because it's like he's almost like a cross, like a bridge, like low-key, he's like a bridge to this other universe. Because when he showed up in the last movie, everyone was like, whoa, like, yeah, obviously. But like, there's no reference to him just coming over into, they're just like, yeah, like, who else is going to play this dude? Like, you know, like, whatever.
Stephen A. Smith.
Actually, no, I just think going down the line and then they just jump to Doctor Strange, and this is where I kind of take points off for the movie because, you know, there's some leaps that you have to just trust that, like, okay, Doctor Strange is no, you know, he knows what he's talking about. Him and Wong know what he's talking about. And really in the trailer, they do a 180 on that because they're like, he's like, don't cast that spell. In the movie, they're like, whatever, do what you want.
He's like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah.
And Wong, I think that's interesting. Sorry, I'm cutting you off, but now they slightly mentioned that Wong is now Sorcerer Supreme because Strange was Blip for 5 years. So
yeah.
So he's kind of like Wong being on top of him, kind of trying to listen to Wong at the same time and do my own thing, kind of.
I also love how they keep bringing back like little stuff from the blip, like just little ramifications and shit. Because it was really like literally a universe changing event. Like, so it'll keep coming up. I like that they weren't just like, okay, that happened, we're moving on. Like, we're just never gonna talk about it again. They're like, no, we gotta keep talking about this shit. That was huge.
Everybody aged 5 years. What happened? They do that more in the if you haven't watched the Disney Plus series, I don't know what you're doing watching. Like, they I will say that they do a good job with these movies. They realize that like not everyone is going to watch the Disney Plus as canon, but like they do a lot more world building in that in the series of like people being re-snapped and coming back and stuff. It's really cool what they do in those series. So if you haven't watched, go watch those. But the him going in and just being like, all right, everyone is not going to know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And then he was like, wait, and then which is kind of like funny for Spider-Man, because the funniest thing about Spider-Man to me with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and I think Andrew Garfield did it a little bit, he's the smartest dipshit on the planet.
Yeah.
Like he's just a teenage kid. You know what I mean? Like, wait. And he keeps like Strange just can't focus is what it was really funny. That's what broke up in the multiverse, which I'm not really sure that's what broke up in the multiverse. Like throughout, if you've seen Loki or whatever, I think it maybe just occurred at the same time. But there's we can nerd out on that, but like there's several things that go along.
I think
there.
Loki and WandaVision and all this is like it's this overlapping moment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That it all kind of happens.
Yeah, apparently it also ties into What If. I was seeing people say, I haven't watched all of What If yet, but whatever.
I think maybe they were talking about probably that second post-credit scene.
Yeah, with the second Doctor Strange or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it is funny because it starts to pull in everyone who knows who Peter Parker is, or not who knows who Peter Parker is, knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, which from the Maguire universe is a train full of people. Like it's just like like a lot of people, like actual civilians, and a few people in the Andrew Garfield. Here's where it's you kind of got to just go with it, because in the Garfield one, I don't remember if Jamie Foxx doesn't know who Spider-Man is, but he shows up anyway. Like that's fine.
I've only watched that movie once, and I never went back to it.
Well, in the movie, within the confines of the movie, he doesn't know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says that line, I thought you were black.
Yeah. I helping poor people. I thought you were black. And Andrew Garfield plays it off. He's like, sorry.
Sorry,
man. And then they allude to Miles Morales, because I think he said something like maybe there's a black Spider-Man. I think
there's got to be a black Spider-Man somewhere.
Yeah, there's got to be a black Spider-Man somewhere. That's what I thought that they also were going to do in this movie that they didn't do. But, kind of it breaks open the universe. And the first, let's talk about the first fight scene with Doc Ock, because he kind of shows up. He's in the Iron Spider suit because somebody threw paint on his other suit that he made in the previous movie. So he's in the Iron Spider suit. He's trying to talk to that woman. All that woman had to do was get out of the other side of the car.
She's in shock.
They had the child lock on. She panicked.
So, Tej, what do you think about that scene? What do you think about the sort of introduction of these villains just literally just showing up?
When Peter gets the tingle, when he's on the bridge talking to the lady, when he gets the tingle and you realize, oh shit, this is about to go bad. It is just balls to the wall from there. It's such a fun scene to watch play out. I really enjoyed it more the second time, just taking it bit by bit. And the way that Doc, it is so much happening when the car, Doc Ock throws one of the cars and it hits those little things that keep you from hitting the boundary, the little trash cans full of water, and the water's going everywhere. They put it in slow motion. Then Spider-Man's doing the flip to save the lady, and he holds the car up.
Yeah,
that's what you come for. Like that's classic Spider-Man movie shit, and they did a great job with it. Alfred Molina comes in like he's been doing Spider-Man movies for the last 20 years. It's like he doesn't miss a beat. He's like, oh, okay, I got this. I know what to do. And it's just great.
I will say we talk about this a lot it feels like he's in a different movie. We talked about this in the last podcast, but it feels like he's in a different movie. That's not a bad thing here, because he feels like a different villain. And they use sort of the Danny Elfman score from the previous films to underscore that. But he definitely feels like he's doing his Sam Raimi camp thing, within the confines of this movie, where he's like freaking out and telling him to shut up and da 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 da. Yeah, it just. What did y'all think about his performance?
I enjoyed it, man. Alfred Molina. It's funny. There was a clip. I think it was like a villains panel. So it was Jamie Foxx, Defoe, and Molina. And they asked him why he came back. He said the money, but
yeah,
like his answer was the money. But like with all the people that came back, man, it was like they you could tell they like really put in their heart into it. And with Molina scenes, it felt like you were back, like watching Spider-Man 2. Because I felt like you had mentioned like him being a different character, but I felt like he was just literally they pulled him out of where he was before he died, but it felt like it was just him continuing the same mannerisms, the same everything. And then the scene on the bridge, I enjoyed the fact that they had Peter use the nanotech.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
he was in control of his tentacles and stuff like that. But Alfred's performance was great, man. I enjoyed how the villains even interacted when they were locked in the when Strange had them locked in the little cages or whatever, and they are like, "Oh, I know you. Okay, you worked at Oscorp. Okay,
yeah,
First Norman, all that kind of thing." I like how they kind of connected that to kind of catch you up. Like, okay, this is where he's from. This is where he's from, and how these characters would know each other.
I will say this about the nanotech stuff. It was very funny that it just like nanotech uses Bluetooth. This is like new device paired. You're just like, what? No, so they do that. Of course, Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin kind of makes an appearance, blows up a bunch of cars, and then he gets zapped back, and they have to go and do the whole team up thing. Of course, this isn't Zendaya is a major star now. Of course, this isn't a Zendaya movie. This is a Spider-Man movie. So they gave her about as much to do as you possibly could, which I think is good. She does more than other MJs or Gwen Stacy's in other movies. I was gonna
say we don't need the PS4 like MJ missions where you're like,
no, right.
Like, okay, we're gonna stop the game now. You're gonna sleuth around as MJ. Like, no, we don't need that. We're not here for that.
Yeah, I mean, they give her about as much to do as you possibly could as MJ. She does more in this than Dune.
True.
Oh that's very true. Very true.
So yeah, I think she's good in what her and Ned are good in what she's given.
This is the first time that I was like, I actually really like this Peter and MJ's relationship. Like before it was like, okay, he's like trying to get the girl that's obviously way too cool for him in the confines of this movie. But now it's like, okay, I can see why this is actually like a relationship and they love each other and there's like sacrifices being made that are actually sad. Like, okay, I'm with you now. Before it was kind of like everything was just happening, like cool girl trying to get her, and now it's like this is a real actual relationship I should care about with stakes, blah blah blah. So
kind of happening in the confines of like the periphery of the other movies, but like it also is like just speaks to like you just care about Tom Holland and Zendaya. Like it's just one of those things. Like they're just like you're gonna root for these two kiddos now 25s. 20, they're like 2 years younger than us. But
figure yourself, man.
Oh well, that's I mean, they could be Tija's kids, but you know,
yeah, they got a good bit amount of years on Mr. Holland.
But we'll talk about this, and then they introduce Defoe's character in full. And I text this to the group, and I want to get y'all's thoughts on this. The Raimi characters they use, and maybe I'm thinking a little bit too much in this, but like they use sort of like the device of almost that they are dealing with mental illnesses a little bit, that like, okay, well, he has multiple personality disorder or he has schizophrenia. Like Doc Ock has schizophrenia, and then Green Goblin has multiple personality disorder almost due to what they're doing. And they play it almost like that for when he shows up to Feast, which is a tease from the comics and the other media from Spider-Man. But like he shows up and he's almost like this homeless guy that just needs help. what did y'all think about Defoe's performance throughout? And we talked about it a little bit, but going forward, like the way that they switched that, and they're like, "What?" Because you're never gonna just fully trust the dude that literally looks like Green Goblin in real life. But like, no offense to Willem Dafoe, but he there's a reason he was cast as Green Goblin.
Well, I like, again, I think you have to like, that's why the Spider-Man villains are good, is that there's a reason that they're doing it all. You know, it's not maniacal. It's not, like just comparing to like a good Batman villain, like the Penguin. The Penguin does it because he's a gun runner and a mob boss. Like there's no good to, like, you're not trying to save the Penguin. That's what he is. Or if the Danny DeVito version, he's like the fish man. But it's but with Willem Dafoe, like, he and Maguire's Spider-Man, had a good relationship, outside of the Goblin thing. Like he did have some affection for him. So
I'm something
it makes
of a
sense
scientist myself.
Yeah. they do the thing. They did the thing. They did the Leo pointing meme in this movie.
Yeah. So, but they, so yeah. And then the thing is about Otto Octavius in the first part of Spider-Man 2 is he's a great guy who's doing this to, like, he's a great scientist, and he's telling Peter about, love and like why it's important to share his feelings with MJ and all that. Otto Octavius helped Peter immensely grow as a young man. So, the thing that's messing him up is that little thing in the back of his neck that's, that the robots are telling him what to do. So I think it gives weight, and it gives it to, like, otherwise, like, why would you want him to cure them? Like it gives weight to also Aunt May's story, because Aunt May be like, no, just kill him. Just hit the button, right. Send them back. It doesn't matter. Not your problem. If they're all evil, like, just send them back to when they die.
Dex, you had a problem. You had a problem. Yeah. Let's talk about it. All right, like, let's get into it.
I get it, right? It's Spider-Man. Like, Peter Parker's supposed to be like the great, like a great guy, good guy, all of that. But I was watching, and I'm like, May, you fucking tripping. Like, real talk. Like, you can't kill them. You can't just send them back to their universe. What do you mean it's not your problem? I mean, it's literally not my problem. They were bad people. If they died fighting Spider-Man in their universe, it's probably because they were doing some fucked up shit they shouldn't be doing. I'm hitting this button. I'm fixing this universe. Like, I'm
going to college.
Yeah, I'm going to MIT.
I'm to MIT.
We vibing. Like, this is not my shit that I'm dealing with. Like, and I appreciate that Spider-Man is a better person than me. Great power, great responsibility, all that shit. But me watching, I was like, this is insane. This woman is insane. I'm sorry.
I didn't have an issue with the Aunt May part of it, but I did have an issue with the Toby part of it, where Toby's like, we got to cure everybody. This is what we do. Because I have seen those Spider-Man films.
Shit.
Toby was killing. Toby was smoking all his ops in the Spider-Man movies, bro. So I don't want to hear anything about Toby telling me that I got to save these random dudes from your universe, when Toby was just literally offing all his ops. All his ops had to go, bro. He was just killing them. So many people die in those Spider-Man movies, bro.
Well,
he Toby don't want to cure nobody.
He threw a bomb at the last one in the last movie. He threw a pumpkin bomb and eviscerated that man.
And the thing about Tobey Maguire, that
Toby's died on accident.
That's what I was about to say.
I don't want to hear that shit, bro.
He goes like all gung-ho.
No, I don't want to hear that shit, bro. That's narrator issues. Because every time I watch that movie, I think, Toby killed these people, bro. Don't listen to the movie. Toby killed those people.
Every single time he's like, I'm about to go kill this bitch. Like, this shit ends tonight. And then they actually die. And
they just happen to die every time. And Toby's like,
sitting there holding their hands. Like, oh no, he died. I know it's going to be like this.
I can't believe
8 times.
I can't believe he's dead.
I can't believe I just happened to jump out of the way of this glider.
I didn't know that it was going to keep moving after I jumped.
Toby murdered all his ops. So I thought it was a bit interesting to have Toby trying to help heal people with medicine when Toby smoked all his ops. But maybe Toby thought we didn't see those movies.
One thing that they brought
I appreciated him being like, I've been thinking about a cure for Osborn for a long time. Like, okay, I can respect that that's been fucking with you, and you're thinking about it. There's the way you could have fixed it.
That's why he looks tired. Yeah. That's why he looks tired, man. He's just like, oh, I can't believe that.
That's what he's been doing since Spider-Man 3.
Yeah. Trying to cure the Osborn curse.
I I will say this. This is what I liked about the Toby, like they brought over from the Raimi trilogy that you were talking about, Tej, that we were talking about. They beat the shit out of Spider-Man.
Oh yeah.
They beat the hell out of Spider-Man in those Raimi trilogies.
Spider-Man had to really earn it out there.
His mask, the one little strap across his face because his mask is all the way off. That last fight with Goblin in the first Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of Spider-Man getting the shit beat out of him, we got to talk about Doctor Strange going out super sad to start this movie. Like, how do you open up a whole other dimension and this high school kid is just like, oh, I'm about to fuck him up. Like, geometry,
math.
No, he said, this is math.
What?
Paul, what do you think about that scene?
His spirit out of his body, and he's just like, "Nah, you still can't have his box, bro. Sorry."
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was really good. I thought it was really well done. And again, like Doctor Strange. Like the other thing is that it had to be a scene to where like, because again, you'd be like, well, if Doctor Strange is magic, why doesn't he just? I mean, like, and they've got everybody they want. Like the movie could be over right now.
Right,
like, they're all in the cages. Like everybody's where they are. Like they've got to create some sort of scene where Doctor Strange underestimates Spider-Man, which was, I thought the kind of cool thing was like they just had him because, and that was the thing. It's like it took at the end of the movie is Doctor Strange finally realized like, oh man, like this kid is really something actually, Whereas before, like even through their interaction with the Avengers and all that, he was kind of like, well, this kid can do some stuff, but he's still a kid. Like he had no faith in him to make good decisions or do the right thing. So he treated him like a kid the whole time. And in that scene, because he was treating him like a kid, Spider-Man grew up and figured him out,
With that scene too, Paul, like when Strange pushes him out of his body and you see like his spider sense, I guess, was still, his actual Spider-Man body was still keeping the box away from Strange. Yeah. I think that was kind of cool because, in the first two MCU Spider-Man films, he's still trying to work on his Spidey or Peter Tingle or whatever he called it in the MCU, like the spider sense. And then in this film, like you see it at its most in that particular scene. And then one of my other favorite scenes was in the apartment where he senses Green Goblin is back. And
I love that scene.
Man, that scene is so dope. And he's like, he just freezing, like just looking around. And then, he could feel goblins there and he shoots the web. I think that was really cool because in the first two, MCU Spider-Man films and even in Civil War, I don't even know what they mentioned in Civil War, but you see he's kind of struggling with his spider sense. And I think at that particular moment, it was at its very highest.
Yeah. Paul, I know you got to go here soon, but give us your parting thoughts. As far as I know, we still got a lot on the movie to cover, but give us your parting thoughts on as far as what you think about this movie and kind of the ending scenes and everything else, and we'll follow up after you bolt.
Yeah, I think that it's a top 5 MCU movie to me, and it'll probably live there. Like, I'm a huge fan of the last 2 Avengers movies. I'm a huge fan. Like, I think Thor Ragnarok is one of the best comedies we've actually had in cinema in the last 10 years since, it's gotten harder and harder to make comedies, not because it's hard to write jokes. It's hard to write jokes, but studios are afraid of the jokes you're going to write. So they don't want to give you money. So I think that, it's going to live in the top 5 for me forever because it does do everything you want it to do. It brings everybody back. It brings in, gives you a little flash of like, look, we're probably going to see Daredevil and Spider-Man fight together at some point. Like that's going to happen now. Like the other thing that, that they're going to, nothing's not going to get paid off, so it gives some rest to, like, it fixes Spider-Man 3 and that, like, that's not the last thing we get of Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. The last thing we get of Andrew Garfield isn't, what he had to go through. And look, you could theoretically, you're not going to do it with Tobey Maguire because, again, like you said, he's 45, 46 years old. But with Andrew Garfield, you could literally like wedge him into like one of those other movies, and people would buy it. It would work.
He said he wants to come back.
Yeah, so he could come back and do it, and you could have 2 Spider. Like, look, DC's doing it. They're going to have 2 Batman. They're going to have 2 or 3 Batman. No one cares. Just do a good story. people will do it if you do a good story. And I liked everything about it. I don't have any. I have one little plot concern, which is the thing that would probably bump it down to like a 98 to me. Like, okay, everybody forgets at the end.
Yeah.
But Flash wrote a book. So what happened to the book? Like, am I supposed to believe that because they never knew, or like that thing is gone, that the book is undone? Or maybe the book, like there's a copy of the book that somebody finds one day, I don't know, and brings it back.
The book was also called Flashpoint, which is really funny.
Yeah. Which I think aren't the guys who wrote the first Spider-Man movie doing the Flash movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Which is Flashpoint. But I do think that they've set up, an interesting, like with that post-credit scene of some symbiote getting left behind, they can do the kind of Tom Holland's own Venom story without.
I need it.
What? Yeah.
I need
without Tom Hardy or anything like that, like you can go find him. Plus Danny Rojas is in that scene.
Danny Rojas.
Football is life, I almost said that out loud in the theater. It was like, oh, football is life.
Karina definitely said that in the theater.
Yeah, but they, so they've done everything that they need to do to set up Tom Holland on his own thing. Plus, they finally set Tom Holland up as Spider-Man as he is. As he's on his own. Like he's, he doesn't have Tony Stark or, or Nick Cage or even, Nick Cage.
Imagine if he did have Nick Cage.
Nick Fury helping him out. So yeah, it's really done well. And I don't think you could do, and I'll just compare it to the other Sony fan service movie that they did a month ago was Ghostbusters, which is fine. And they were smart about Ghostbusters in that the fan service that's paid in that movie doesn't get paid until the end of the movie because it doesn't need to be, because the Ghostbusters are all 70 years old. And, outside of Winston Zeddemore, they all look 70 years old. So, yeah. They do all right. And so it works. People should go see it, enjoy it. And it's going to be nerd porn forever now.
Forever. It is going to live in the
forever. So I'm glad I don't get to, like, if you want me to give a hot take on something, I'll happy to do it, but
not yet. Nope.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not that point at the show. I'll just, so that, I can make Dex cry again. Beyonce's a terrible actress and she should be ashamed of herself for even going into that realm.
Wait a second. See, we can't have Beyonce slander on this podcast.
This is what I'm saying. I can't believe we let Paul back on the show.
I'm not slandering her as a.
We're not doing this whole thing again.
Yeah, we barely made it. We're fighting for our lives out here, bro. We barely made it out last time we said this.
Yeah. Well, look, I'll tell you. Look here, to make it better, to maybe get the other half. Look, Taylor Swift, not good at acting either. So
turn that up.
Yeah, not good at acting, singing. Wait,
has she been in anything?
Cats, which I didn't see, but and that what's the one, The Giver, which is a really good children's book that she had a part in ruining. So
Valentine's Day back in 2011.
Yeah, no, I look, in my single days, I didn't want to get laid enough to ever go watch Valentine's Day. So.
So sad for you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. Like it's not worth that.
All right. Paul from Sikkim 365. Thank you so much for coming on, man. We'll
appreciate you, Paul.
Tag you in this post when it's all said and done.
All right. Great seeing you guys.
All right. So we will let's continue on with what we were talking about as far as
talk about the three Spideys as the scenes where.
Well, I was going to talk about Willem Dafoe, the rap. We talked about him beating the shit out of. So Deontay, you mentioned. I'm sorry. We will get to. I feel like we're going to cover the entire Spidey trilogy here in like 2 seconds, but like the scene when Willem Dafoe breaks bad again with the solo camera on Tom Holland, kind of the shaky cam, ISO cam on him, trying to like figure out who's gonna freak out in these whole villains when they have them all in the apartment, which is actually inherently funny in and of itself.
Well, that's funny.
Yeah, just having them all like the Sandman getting sand on the couch and like
Jamie Foxx was like, "Why are you looking at me like?"
Yeah, it just also Jamie Foxx just played Jamie Foxx in this movie. For
he
being
really
completely
was.
honest. He was just quite literally Jamie Foxx in this movie. But yeah, when he does that, and Willem Dafoe gives his whole God, I was shook, man. I was shook by his performance. It was crazy. And then Tom Holland is trying to. This dude's strong as shit. He power bombs him through 3 floors. He throws him up against the ceiling,
incredible,
catches him, and then goes, yeah, and just go. It was the craziest thing I think I've ever seen in a superhero movie. I was genuinely shook. I don't know. It was so that whole thing. And when he's trying to, he does the Black Widow move where he tries to like get on top of him and like elbow him, and then and he's laughing in his face. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. Those, like I think I mentioned it earlier, man. These fights, like I don't think we've seen these kind of like this is like Captain America Civil War kind of fights, like just hand-to-hand combat, just bar for bar, going through like going through the ceiling, like 8 floors. Like I don't think I've ever seen that like from the Spider-Man trilogy, and like that just added to like the personal battle it was, and like how sinister William Dafoe's Green Goblin was, man. It was just a sight to see. Like I grade this fight scene like out of the MCU probably one of the better fighting moments in the MCU, just off craziness and like brutality, like physical fight that it was. Like fight scenes are
some
dope,
really
like,
dope fight scenes this year, because like
this
that
year alone,
yeah, that skyscraper scene in Shang-Chi where they're like outside on the scaffolding, like fighting, like doing a bunch of ninja shit, like combined with some of the shit in this movie, some of the stuff in Black Widow. Like they're giving us a bunch of heat this year when it comes to fight scenes. They took their game up a level during that pandemic.
and then that should be another thing that we mentioned in the. They made this movie, and I thought for a second I was like, "Ooh, are we going to notice that somehow this is a COVID movie?" Nah, not at all. Not at all.
No, not at all.
It's crazy. They were just like, we don't care who's getting COVID. We're going to test whatever, whenever, and 1 million people are going to be on this film set.
How was John Watts able to make an old person fighting look that good, and Martin Scorsese made old people fighting look like an abomination? It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, to be fair, Robert De Niro's damn near 90. Like
I think it might be because Martin Scorsese is no, I'm not going to say that, but Martin Scorsese does not have the emotional depth or the ability to take us on a roller coaster
of the Marvel universe,
like a Marvel universe.
Superhero fatigue.
He can't build an amusement park like John Watts can. Let's discuss. All right.
Okay, so they kill Aunt May, which they have avoided doing in these movies. Like, we don't even know if there's an Uncle Ben in this universe. I don't think there is.
No, there is.
Is there?
Yeah, we don't ever see him.
I volunteered to be Uncle Ben. Well, I guess there's no need for Uncle Ben.
They mentioned him, I think, in the Homecoming.
In No Way Home, or not No Way Home, Far From Home. Like he has Ben, like the Ben Parker suitcase and all that. Like his name is on there, so like he's mentioned, or like he exists, but he's not like a part of the story, which I really appreciate. We need to see Ben die a third time.
No, they didn't, and I'm glad they didn't. They never did. The one thing that I always appreciated with the Spider-Man trilogy and him in the other movies, they literally just introduced him in an Avengers team up movie, basically, and they didn't have to do. They're like, you know who Spider-Man is, like whatever. Like
we're not doing the whole got bit by a spider. We're not doing Uncle Ben got shot.
yeah. We don't have to do the whole thing.
Not fucking Batman, where you have to see like his parents.
Bruce Wayne's parents die. But that was the thing in this, and then they do, and I guess it was to give it to more emotional later. Maybe it was Marissa Tomei was like, I don't want to be in these movies anymore. But like they kill Aunt May. How did we feel about that whole payoff? Like, what was, because that was the one thing that wasn't spoiled for me this entire thing.
What's crazy about that scene, man? When the glider came through, I was like, I know she got hit.
Yeah.
I know she got hit, but she was like still walking. I was expecting her to fall earlier, and she was like, no, I'm good. She got up. She's like, I'm good, like stretching and like.
Took it like a champ.
Right. I was like, there's no way she's living. And like she started touching like Peter's back, and he was like, her hand was like shaking. I was like, oh yeah, she felt that.
I thought she was gonna be instant dead. She like got
that's
hit
what
by
I'm
a
saying.
glider. She
That's what I'm
blew up.
A bomb went off.
Exactly.
I was like, okay, so she's instant dead. Then she got up and was like talking shit. I was like, oh, is the MCU really just gonna be like, none of that happened? Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And then obviously she dies, and Tom Holland Tom Holland is incredible at like death scenes and fading into oblivion scenes and all this other shit. He has killed that multiple times in the MCU. Like, boy had me in tears.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
why
they're
the tears
freaking
started
out.
flowing for me. I was like, God, they did a great job with it. Marissa Tomei did an incredible job with that scene. She what a great send off for her. I love her. I'm very sad she's not going to appear in these movies anymore. But what an amazing send off. She did an incredible job with that scene.
You can just follow her Instagram like I know you already do.
I have no comment about that.
No, I thought she was like, I kind of after a while I was like, oh yeah, she's definitely gonna like, when she was like sticking around and he was telling her to run, I was like, oh, they're gonna kill her. Like, yeah, that's gonna happen. And they did the great power comes great responsibility thing, which is, I guess, their version of this origin story. And then, of course, the Spider-Men eventually show up. We said our theaters all collectively lost their minds when Andrew Garfield came through the thing. It was funny because my theater did they lost their mind when Andrew Garfield came through, and then Tobey Maguire came through, like they said, dressed as a youth pastor, and they were just like, oh yeah, you too. It was weird because everybody loves those movies more.
Yeah, that didn't happen for me. I think it was just as loud both times, like for both characters coming through. But yeah, I think the only leap that I really like truly was kind of like, I don't think that's like good storytelling was Ned just being able to open portals now.
Right.
Like they kind of
No, that was like fire.
They kind of teased it throughout this movie, but like I don't remember us ever talking about that before.
It never, yeah.
No.
So it was kind of weird.
Yeah,
like I'm with it. Like, you know, the movie's got to happen somehow. Like, that's fine. And you know, if he gets to do more stuff, like, does he remember that he's magic after he forgets who Peter Parker is? I don't know, but
he's gonna remember, bro. He's gonna have powers. I'm all here for it. Hopefully, we see him hanging around Doctor Strange 2. I'm in. I like Ned having powers.
I appreciate
Let's do
that.
it.
But it was
give everybody powers.
I'm on board. Like, you know, you got to do what you got to do. But I was also kind of like, maybe they could have done something else. I don't know.
I went back and I watched Doctor Strange instead of watching like the remainder of the Spider-Man films, just because we hadn't seen really like Doctor Strange in the mirror dimension or anything like that in a long time. And it takes Doctor Strange like weeks to learn how to do a portal or whatever. It took Ned like on accident.
Obviously, Ned is a natural. And it's Ned's about to be new Sorcerer Supreme. I'm in. Sign me up.
Ned has raw talent. You know, he's just got to figure out how to focus it because clearly he was fucking up. Like he couldn't find his Peter Parker.
He's a Jalen Green of this universe.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Spider-Men show up. They have this emotional moment with Peter after Aunt May dies. Tobey Maguire gives a performance. I was gonna say, like, I feel like Tobey Maguire, like, he's fine, like he does a good job, but he definitely did like 3 takes each scene. He was like, I'm done.
I appreciated that about like the Tobey Maguire character, that he was like, he's the old one. He's like, yeah, I've done this before. Like, I've done everything that y'all are doing. Like, I got it. I've been Spider-Man for a long ass time. I appreciated that.
Yeah. Okay. And so they do, what I did like about this is they do the whole, and we talked about the whole pointing meme thing, but they do, what I liked about this movie is they reinforce how smart Spider-Man is supposed to be. And they do it multiple times with him trying to heal the supervillains and then the team up in the lab with all 3 of them. I really appreciated that because we kind of forget with all the Stark tech and everything else. He's supposed to be like a boy genius. We always forget about that with these Spider-Man films.
Try to hit home on that with that scene. Well, especially for Tom Holland's Peter Parker, with that, the Science Burrows scene, and then the one where we were talking about earlier where he, fought beat Doctor Strange in the mirror dimension using the math. That I think I like how they also I think showed how each Peter Parker is different. Like Tom's the young one, like he's still immature, or not immature, but like he still has a lot to learn. And then they use Andrew Garfield as the emotional one. Like he's very emotional. He didn't feel like he was the best Spider-Man, and he kind of brought that out to like a real world thing. And then you have Tobey Maguire, the season one, the one that's been through it all. Like they brought them in from their universe, but they also show why each one is different and why, some fans enjoy one over the other and stuff like that. I kind of enjoyed that. They weren't just there. They show why each one is different besides the suit they wear.
I'll say this.
Well, I'm glad they brought their suits back too.
And maybe y'all won't agree. I thought Andrew Garfield stole the show, man. I thought he stole the show in his time. Obviously this is Tom Holland's movie. He's the GOAT Spider-Man. He's made incredible. He was funny. He brought emotion. And it's also because, look, Andrew Garfield's an Academy Award nominated actor. He's like a classically trained, really good actor that just happened to be a movie star. But I thought he was fantastic. His line delivery, his jokes, I love you guys. It was just really, really, really funny.
In the MJ scene, saving MJ.
And called that from a mile away.
That's when the waterworks started again for me.
We all knew it was gonna happen, but it still got me.
It got me for sure. It got me.
That little little breakdown he had momentarily. So good, so fucking good.
He crushed that scene.
With Andrew Garfield, it's more of he was the most improved player kind of thing. Tom Holland was still my MVP, but Andrew Garfield definitely gets most improved player, which is its own, separate thing, because he obviously he was in the worst movies out of the 8 Spider-Man movies that we had. He was in the 2 worst ones, I think, and the 2 worst ones in my opinion. And he, we just kind of ended his story. We're done with that. Your girlfriend died, real sad. We're just never going to hear from you again. Cool, whatever. But in this one, he gets to get some closure. He gets to, feel like he's a part of the larger Spider-Man community for the first time, really. So, he had the most to gain in this movie, and he gained it all. So
that makes sense.
And they've also come out and he's said that I would like to, there could be a separate universe of his Spider-Man movies, produced by Feige and everything else down the road and stuff like that, with just Sony instead of bringing him in the MCU. I don't know if that would work, but he could be the Spider-Man for the Tom Hardy Venom stuff. But it is whatever. But I think there's definitely room to bring him back in. Tobey Maguire is never picking this up ever again, ever.
we don't need him to. We don't. I feel like we'll be okay without him. But yeah, I mean, the Andrew Garfield movies, the Amazing Spider-Man movies, the problems with those, you can't really go back and just finish that story and make it good. You got to do something completely separate. Because the problem with that movie is they were doing too much. The villains were whack, all this stuff. They tried to make it about his parents dying, and then Uncle Ben dies, and it's a whole thing. I don't want all that. You know what I'm saying?
The whole thing where you don't know the backstory of his parents that they drag out for 2 movies is just stupid, and there's a lot of energy put to it, and it's just I don't care about this particular storyline at all, and the payoff isn't good. The villains are really bad, especially Rhino. The first time I watched that movie, or the only time I watched that movie, when Rhino came on the screen, I literally was is this supposed to be am I supposed to laugh at this? Is this supposed I don't know what reaction I'm supposed to have to this character.
And then the movie just ends.
The movie just ends. It's just all right, that was a Spider-Man movie, I guess.
Admittedly, I haven't seen that movie in full.
You don't need to. You're not missing anything. But Garfield's good. And I thought he did a good job of. I don't. You could tell that he came into the movie without the pressure of trying to prove I was a good Spider-Man, and the movie is literally going out of the way to big him up, which works for the movie, but also works on the meta level of, hey, we understand that you don't have the best Spider-Man movies, but we still appreciate you and what you've done for this IP.
I mean, those
and we
movies
appreciate your
combined
performance.
made over $1 billion. Like they made like
Facts.
$1.4 billion or something like that. They each made like $700 million. It was crazy, but that's just Spider-Man. And I think Deontay's I think he's frozen. But the thing with him, like his line delivery was just funny to me. Like his whole like when Sandman starts to like power back up or whatever, and they kind of regroup like after they get their ass kicked at first. And he's just like, what the hell is going on out there, guys? I keep calling and I can't hear you. And it's really, really funny to me. And can we talk about the best line in the movie where he's like, I don't want to brag. I was a part of a team. I was part of the Avengers. He goes, that's great. What is that? That was an incredible. Yeah, that was incredible line delivery by Tobey Maguire. And then he goes, then he did the best like old Spider-Man thing. How is this helping? It was I cried in a theater. That was very funny. That's great. What is that? Did we like how did we feel about the final set piece? And then we'll kind of wrap up and get towards the end of the movie, which I think has bigger ramifications going forward. I liked kind of how they were swinging around. Like they kind of obviously had to keep it self-contained, but like part of me was like, ooh, I wish the three of them were zipping around New York City a little bit. Like it's fine. I like what they did with it, but just part of me felt like that.
I didn't think that at all, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, now that you say that,
yeah.
I didn't think about it while watching it, but now that you say that, yeah, that probably would have been cool. But
yeah.
I like the way that it ended because it wasn't like, you know, I don't need to see them all doing hand-to-hand combat with all these other villains that I've seen them all do hand-to-hand combat with before. I want to see like Spidey team-up shit, and that's what they're focused on, like the final fight scene, like, you know, figuring out, hey, I'm gonna swing here, you're gonna swing there, and we're gonna like toss this like cure back and forth and throw alley-oops to each other and shit. Like this is dope.
They were doing the Dwayne Wade, LeBron alley-oops.
Yeah, I love this. It's Lob City up in here. Like,
my theater went crazy when they landed, when they all jumped, they were flying around, then they all landed in the poses. My theater went crazy for that shot. Like crazy, insane for that shot.
I think Royden sent us a TikTok. I was like, this is the new greatest moment in cinematic history. And I'm like, I agree.
Yeah, when they all three and the camera's following, you can see like they took a few things from the Amazing Spider-Man as far as like camera work goes, where like the camera sort of follows him like behind it's shots. Behind shots or like first person shots, which we don't get a lot in these movies, but like and then they're zipping around and he literally like webs both of them and slings them around the building or around the Statue of Liberty. I was like, oh, oh man. It's just everything that you think of when you're like a kid thinking about Spider-Man is like what they did in this final scene. But then they have the Green Goblin come in. And the one thing that I like about that they mentioned in this with Andrew Garfield is that he stopped pulling his punches. So historically, Spider-Man pulls his punches. Otherwise, he would literally kill all of his villains, like Tobey Maguire. But like he can lift like 10 tons. So historically, they quote unquote pull his punches. They showed Tom Holland in that almost punch a hole through the shield when trying to beat Willem Dafoe's ass. And I really appreciated that final fight scene because he like when he flipped over and webbed him and then like threw him over his back, I was like, oh, okay. Like he's gonna kill this dude. He's gonna kill this guy. And
then grab the glider and almost went MAGA cap on him.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. I was like, this is so fucking what's his name? John something?
John Walker.
John Walker. Yeah,
bro. He almost went full
MAGA
cap on him.
Tobey Maguire pops up and gets stabbed.
What I thought that was like
lack of self-awareness by Toby. You gotta let him just kill him. Kill him.
Yeah, where were your Spidey sense? Where was your Spidey sense when you were about to be stabbed?
That's what I was about to say. Like,
yeah, what is happening?
Is he that old and Spidey sense just kind of like not on point?
I should have been like, oh yeah, he's about to get stabbed, but I wasn't. I was like absolutely shook when you hear that knife sound.
I thought they were gonna kill him. That was the one thing that I took away from this movie. I was like, oh, are they gonna just like Toby doesn't want to like Toby did the Harrison Ford thing where he's like, you gotta kill me, man.
Yeah.
which they didn't do. They just stabbed him, and then he's like, "I'm fine." Which
I've been stabbed before.
You're in so much pain, aren't you? Yeah.
So they wrap that up. All the villains go back to their thing. He sort of is left with being the sort of pure character, although a lot of shit has happened to him, which you can't really say about the other Spider-Man, is that he still has this pureness to him. You know what I mean? Which maybe they addressed later on in the Spider-Man thing, because eventually I feel like all of these MCU characters like lose their sort of, I don't know, pureness to them in the comic books.
He was beating the shit out of that old man before Toby showed up. These fight scenes were brutal, man. He was beating the hell out of this old man.
Yeah.
God damn.
It was loud. Like
On top of Cap's shield, he was beating the shit out of an old man. I was like, God.
Did they cut off the music during those scenes?
I don't know, but he was like,
so loud.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, that was insane. And even
I thought we were in a Batman movie for a second. You beating up a senior citizen like that. I said, oh, man, this is a Batman movie.
Did y'all think towards the end when, you know, Doctor Strange is trying to hold the spell together, I thought it was finna go crazy, just like all these cameos are about to pop up?
Well, y'all saw the silhouettes of the other villains, right? Like Scorpion,
Craven.
Rhino. Was Craven in one of them?
Because he was like, I thought I saw one holding
With
the
the
spear.
little spear. Yep, he was there.
Okay. So if they kind of just waved that off too with like, oh, I can just fix this a little bit.
I want a Kingpin to drop down there and start spitting bars. I want a Kingpin down there.
But yeah, they kind of waved this off with Strange being like, I got it. I can fix it with just this sort of one cure-all, which what I didn't understand towards the end of the movie, and we'll wrap up the review here, is that actually we do got to talk about the post-credit scenes, but instead of everyone forgets that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, everyone forgets who Peter Parker is, which is like an interesting sort of caveat to the first spell, which I didn't understand quite enough. Maybe it was just a cure-all. Like it was just,
I feel like they wanted to soft reboot the character to be more like the traditional Spider-Man, where he doesn't really have people. He's just kind of a loner. I mean, we knew he wasn't going to go to college, right? Like Spider-Man is not going to college. Like he's going to be in New York City, or he's going to be in space, or he's going to be fine with the Avengers. He doesn't have time to go to MIT. So we knew that was a pipe dream, and it felt like to me that was just their way of getting rid of that part of the storyline, because obviously the Peter Parker would much rather be at MIT, but Spider-Man is an MCU character, and he's going to have to be fighting alongside Captain Marvel. So he ain't going to no MIT. I'm sorry, bro. It's not in the cards for you. Like you can visit them every now and again, but who's going to be protecting New York City? The only way they could have done it is if he handed off those duties to Daredevil. I thought maybe Daredevil was going to come back to the movie and let Peter go to college, but then it was like, oh no, Peter's not going to college.
That's where I somehow thought they were going to introduce a Miles Morales character too, but you know they didn't have time.
I knew
for
they
that.
weren't going to do that, and I'm glad they didn't. To be honest, I feel like that would have been like
Miles is in the MCU, bro. We just got to wait to meet him, but we know he's there because of Childish Gambino told us that he's there.
Yeah, which like I think that's fine, but like actually having like Miles Morales show up as Spider-Man like in this movie, I feel like would have been too much. Like, let's end Tom Holland's story, end all these other like things that we're doing. We don't need to like also have Miles Morales show up, be like, look, it's the black one. You've been waiting. Like,
Sony owned Miles Morales too. I hope not.
They own all Spider-Man.
God damn it.
But yeah, like for the whole like memory wipe thing. Like the whole home trilogy. What are we calling this trilogy? Do we have a name for it? Is it just the MCU Spider-Man?
The Coming trilogy.
I love that, but but yeah, this whole trilogy has been like I said earlier, like Spider-Man's been trying to live this double life. Like he wants to also be Peter Parker separately from being Spider-Man, and he can't really do those things. So now they've just completely taken Peter Parker off the board. Not a person anymore. You're just always Spider-Man now, basically. And you know, so I appreciate that. As far as like the spells and stuff, who knows at this point? Yeah. Like, who can say? We just be doing shit.
They're gonna explain it away in a what if episode. We're all gonna miss it. Like, God damn it.
Yeah, Doctor Strange, he can do some stuff. He can't do some other stuff until they say he can. And it's done. That's all we need.
Yeah, I just kind of was sitting there going like I knew why they did it, and I appreciated, especially at the end of the movie when he kind of gets back, he hand makes the suit. Like that was all stuff. Like Deontay, you played the video game, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's all literally just straight out of like Sony being like, "Hey, we also have this thing like,
Right.
that everybody loves." But it was all out of the video game too, and I really appreciated that because his apartment looks exactly the same as it does in those video games.
Mhm.
Like the scanner on his
Yeah,
phone.
I was about to say
Yep.
that.
He hand makes the suit, and so now he gets to be back to this baseline superhero that isn't teaming up with Iron Man, that isn't
Back
like
to
going to
being-
space.
Right.
You know, I appreciate. I
Fighting
know why
Kingpin.
I know why they did it, but I just didn't understand sort of, I guess, how it worked. Also, because he goes and visits his grave, and Happy Hogan knows that he knows Spider-Man because he knows Aunt May through Spider-Man, but doesn't know who this kid is at all. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of, it's wonky. It's fine. Like I'm okay with it. I get why they did it. I don't think that they're going to somehow, I'm interested to see, because there's no way in hell that they're going to, unless she doesn't want to be in them anymore, but it's a couple $1 million payday every time. They're not going to write off Zendaya. I don't think. I'll be interested to see how they kind of.
I thought I saw that and I was like, that might be how they do the Gwen Stacy thing, because it feels like that's inevitable that you're gonna get a Spider-Man, the girlfriend that dies eventually. But you know, we'll see. But I think it kind of felt like a loop, like everybody forgetting who Peter Parker is, because like when Spider-Man first shows up in Civil War, everyone's just like, who the fuck is this guy? You know? And like, so like you basically just like loop right back to Civil War, where everyone's like, who the fuck is this guy? Spider-Man is just like this new thing, like that just kind of popped up out of nowhere, right? Like, so
We
I appreciate
skipped the best scene of the movie.
What?
When before Doctor Strange does the spell, when Toby walks over, when Holland walks over to Toby and Andrew and gives them this heartfelt goodbye, I was crying so hard.
Really?
Because you clearly tell it's like, this is just Tom Holland thanking these dudes that came before him and embodied this character that allowed him to play this character. It had nothing to do with one Spider-Man talking to two Spider-Mans. All I saw was three actors. It was the coolest thing. It took me out of the movie, but like in the best way possible. I was like, this is such a cool moment. I'm so glad that this got captured on screen, as opposed to just doing it behind, like, you know, thanks guys for coming to the set. We don't get to see that shit. We literally got to see on screen him give his final, you know, tip of the cap to these people. I was so, maybe it's because I was so emotional. The movie had already made me cry like 3 times. I lost it. I just started bawling. I could not take it. Like, it was just so heartfelt and such a high emotional point. It was a perfect send off to send those two characters away. I really loved it.
Tom Holland said, "Thank you so much for making me a billionaire. Like, thank you. Oh my God, thanks."
I get to date Zendaya now.
Yeah, what?
I get to date Zendaya now.
I saw something about him on the red carpet. TJ, I think you retweeted it. It was a woman quote tweeted it and said, "Oh, he's got on the 2-inch heels. This is a 5'10" kind of day. He is feeling himself out here." Feeling every bit of 5'10" out there. I love that. But
that was just some London bloke over there chilling, and then Spider-Man came along, and now I'm dating Zendaya. It's like
life is crazy.
Who would have thought? Look at us.
Some London bloke.
Look at us.
Yeah, so they do that, and then of course it ends, and they don't know, Ned and MJ don't know who he is. And like we said, I enjoyed the like getting it back to basic Spider-Man, especially after he's been to space and been snapped and like just gone through the ringer with all this like huge shit. That
we really needed it, because think about Far From Home. He literally has glasses that allow him to drone strike villains. Like, there's no more need for Spider-Man. He, like, obviously it took the glasses off the board by making it a part of the investigation, but like once he's amassed that much power to where he's got Tony Stark tech just everywhere. How do you make compelling movies about him? So we had to kind of stitch his own suit. It's indicative how we're going back to the ground roots. He can fight much smaller villains now. He's not going to have Thor next to him on one side and Tony Stark next to him on the other side. But we're going to give you the ground level Spider-Man that you love. Those other movies, they're ground level Spider-Man movies. He's not fighting people from outer space. He's fighting regular dudes who he might know or maybe doesn't know, who are having issues that gave them powers. Like he can't fight the Chitauri aliens in space anymore. We're going back to that ground level Spider-Man, which is good because those are the best villains in the MCU. Those ground level, small time villains that we're going to use for one movie. That is what sustains the MCU.
It also feels like it feels like a calculated choice by Sony and Marvel, though, too, because I feel like Marvel was probably going in the direction of, oh, Tom Holland's about to be around for like 15 years. He's about to be our next Tony Stark. And it probably just feels like a handshake agreement between them. Like, let's scrap that idea maybe a little bit. Let's pump you still can, but let's pump the brakes on that just a little bit, because there's no other reason to do all that buildup stuff of giving him the glasses and like Tony dying and him having this connection with Tony to like not make him the next Tony Stark, you know what I mean? And inherit all of this power and money. But just so, yeah, that's what it felt like. So that's Spider-Man No Way Home. They get to the end credit scene, the mid credit scene. I enjoyed it, man. I was like, this is exactly how you get Venom into this without having this stupid ass Tom Hardy character come into this. And that just felt like Kevin Feige being like, we want Venom, but not like that.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank God.
It's like he was like, all right, we're bringing you in, but we just need you for this. Now you can go back to Sony and do whatever y'all want to do.
Yeah, whatever y'all are doing over there, that's fine. We just need that.
You can hang out with Jared Leto over there.
Hang out with Morbius. We don't want any of that shit anywhere near our movie.
Keep that away from me and my family. Thank you.
Yeah, I just thought that was very funny because I saw right through that as Kevin Feige being like, not even for a second. No thanks.
All I need is that little bit of goop to get left behind, and I don't want to see Tom Hardy in another MCU movie ever again. And that's the way they should do it, because that 1 minute, I was so annoyed watching that. Even though I liked that they did it, I was so annoyed watching it because that voiceover, it was like grating against my ears. I was like, oh, I can't watch a whole movie of this. There's no way I can watch a whole movie of that little voice thing. That was so annoying. So good on them. Keep this contained. I don't want Tom Hardy hanging out with Tom Holland. We don't need him in here. No offense to him. Go make your money over there, Sony, and leave us alone now. And I'm into it. I'm fine with that.
So you just get to have Venom in the MCU with a different host. And then finally, they just showed the Doctor Strange trailer. Like, they're just like, "Hey, here's the whole thing,
bro. What are we doing? Just give us a regular trailer and give us a post-credit scene. You don't have to. What, you robbed us of one of them. Like, what are we doing here?" I was so mad. I obviously was happy to see a Doctor. I was happy to see Doctor Strange 2 trailer. Don't get me wrong. I love Doctor Strange. I'm excited for the movie. But give me an end credit scene and then also drop the Doctor Strange trailer, which we could have saw before the movie.
Yeah.
I didn't get that. There was nothing in the
other
trailer that was like,
this one.
Yeah, I think
you liked it there?
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
Because like Doctor Strange was obviously a huge part of this movie happening. And like the whole multiverse thing is like,
and that's the next movie on deck, right?
So it's like,
yeah.
Two birds, one stone. Let's get it.
Summer. I think it's this summer if we're all alive.
Summer 2022.
And I think
if you haven't seen WandaVision, get your ass on Disney Plus. Like, watch that shit. She back. Like,
right. And I think another reason for that is I think they had mentioned a year ago earlier that WandaVision was the first part of like the multiverse trilogy. Far From Home was the second, and then Multiverse of Madness is supposed to be like breaking it all open as far as.
I can't wait. I need it. I need it.
Yeah, man. I go ahead.
No, I'm interested to see where they go with it because we've all seen the stuff of like they fired a director who directed the first Doctor Strange. Who wanted to make it just a straight up like horror movie, which I was down for. When I heard about it, I was like, whatever, like yeah, let's get weird. And then of course they bring in Sam Raimi to keep some of those elements. And then you see like 3 weeks ago they were like reshooting a significant portion of the movie. So it's just kind of like, is what we saw what we're going to get? I don't know. Probably actually, like if they showed it to you,
yeah,
there's definitely some weight to it. But
yeah, they showed it to us in the post credits after like the biggest movie they've done in years. Then yeah, it's probably going to be in the end of it, like the final thing.
I'm interested. I liked the first Doctor Strange movie. I actually thoroughly enjoyed that movie. I thought the visuals and everything still hold up. I think it's something that we just did not explore since. And I'm glad we got a little bit of it in this movie, and I'm excited for that. Deontay, what were you going to say?
I think you had mentioned it, but I think it was more so just Multiverse of Madness being like how we enjoy Far From Home as far as the cameos and who we saw and who they brought back with the villains and the Spideys. Multiverse of Madness is supposed to be like 10 times that, supposedly, with crazy cameos and people coming from different universes. So it's Marvel continuing to bless us, man. This is a crazy.
Finally about to get mutants in Multiverse of Madness, and then you're not gonna be able to tell me no.
Also, ain't gonna be able to tell me shit, brother. I'm sorry. Everybody who's got Marvel fatigue or who hates franchises and reboots, suck my dick. Soon as we get mutants in the MCU, it's over for you bitches. I'm not hearing shit ever.
If they bring in Hugh Jackman in this, I will fart and shit and come. I will. It will be like,
man,
you will recreate the lighthouse.
And this new the director who did the Spider-Man, these 2 Spider-Man movies, is also doing the Fantastic Four. That's what he's going to next.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that's coming. They're just gonna keep fucking blessing us, and we're gonna keep enjoying the spoils. And there is no such thing as Marvel fatigue on this podcast. There's no such thing.
It's not happening.
Not here.
Not happening.
I don't know what they would have to do for me to get tired of watching Marvel movies. Like they would have to literally just get on screen and be like, Davion Dex Hinton is a little bitch, and
even then you would be like, you know what, maybe I am a bitch.
I mean, if Tom Holland said it, it might be true. Who knows? Like,
as for me and my house, we will serve Kevin Feige. That's all I gotta say. So that has been No Way Home, Spider-Man No Way Home, the most popular movie in the history of movies. We're gonna pause for an ad break, and then we're gonna come back and give our definitive ranking of all the Spider-Man movies right after this ad break from Apollo Houston. All right, be right back.
Is there anybody still watching us live? What up, gang? Oh, Tej, I'm going to start Succession this week. It's happening.
My God, fucking finally.
Tomorrow.
You won't regret it.
Starting this shit because
you're gonna like it right away. It's one of those shows that pulls you in kind of immediately.
Yeah, I've been kind of seeing spoilers and stuff like for people tweeting it, but I've like made sure that I have no idea what the fuck any of that means.
You're not gonna remember this stuff once you start going through the show.
Yeah.
My wife started watching it like last week, bro, and I fell asleep the first 2 episodes, and I heard it gets good. Bro. She's already damn near halfway through the 3rd season. She loves it.
She left you in the dirt. She said, I'm not about to play this game with you.
Yeah, fuck that.
I'm playing this game with you. Bro. Your sleepy ass. No, mind.
For real. He's like, I got like 3 episodes left.
I ain't playing with you.
It's a wrap.
Yeah, I'm finally starting that shit. It's scared about to end next week, I guess. So, it's not going back to the office. Tomorrow's my last day in the office until next year. So, yeah, fuck it. We watch it.
Oh, you're gonna love Succession. That shit is. I'm probably gonna go back through at some point before the next season and watch all again. It's just
how many
so
seasons
good.
are there now? 3 or 4?
There are 3 seasons that they just finished the 3rd season.
Third one just ended. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I'm with it. We're gonna see what's
All right,
up
what
with
are
this Shiv situation. I'm getting to the bottom of this.
We got to rank some stuff.
All right. We are going to rank. Let's see. All right. We are going to rank as a group. Deontay, you are now a part of the One Take Podcast official rankings. We are going to hash out our top Spider-Man films in order. We're going to start
at the bottom.
Start at the bottom. Is it Spider-Man and the Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is.
I agree.
Okay, so actually, let me get out the fancy dancy notepad.
Sorry, Andrew, you've gotten last place on our list here, but we still appreciate your performance in this last Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, we love you now. You know, you rewrote
Yeah.
your history.
You're amazing.
You're amazing. Don't take this as a slight towards you, just a slight towards the director and all the villains.
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Are him and Emma Stone still together? I have no idea.
No.
Okay.
No.
Is she with anyone that we know?
I think she may be married. I'm not sure. Like Anne Hathaway or something, just married to like someone super rich and famous that we don't know.
Yeah. She could always do the Meryl Streep thing and be married to someone we will never see or hear ever.
The Oprah thing.
Yeah, the Dolly Parton special.
The Amazing Spider-Man 2. My vote for the next worst. I hate Spider-Man 3. I think it is peak bad. I think it's awful. And I don't even think it's one of those things where it's so bad it's good. I think it's bad. I think it's a very bad film.
I would have the Amazing Spider-Man lower than the Spider-Man 3 by 1 spot, but that's just me.
I haven't actually ever finished Spider-Man 3, at least not as like an adult, so I don't know.
Deontay, decide and vote.
I don't think the last time I saw that movie, I felt like I watched that movie like again after seeing all the MCU stuff, and I'm like, that automatically makes you think it's the worst. But I remember watching it and just cracking jokes the whole time. So I'm gonna agree with you on that and bringing it as the next lowest one.
Okay,
Spider-Man 3 second last.
Yeah.
I mean, that I've said this multiple times on the podcast. That was a movie where I was like, I was a teenager. I think I was in 8th grade. I was like, oh, movies can be bad. I hate that movie. I think it's awful. The whole dancing in the street thing is just like a slap in the face.
Oh my God, the dancing is just even before he dances in the street, when he dances at the club where he goes on the date and he brings the date there. It's just
he also hits his partner in the face.
Yeah, that's just such
so bad. I forgot about that.
I don't hate that movie as much as most people, but I know that it's bad. I enjoy, before he starts going email, I'm fine with the movie. As soon as he goes email, I'm like, what are we doing here? Well, why do we do this? Ugh.
All right. So here's where we kind of got a debate. Obviously the next one is going to be the Amazing Spider-Man.
Yes.
Yeah. Leave Peter Parker's parents out of it. We don't care. That's all I got to say about that.
I really think that he was so hard done by those shitty movies, because I always felt he was a really good Spider-Man. Like, not even Peter Parker, but like the cracking joke sort of Spider-Man that you get from the comics. Mm-hmm. I always thought he was really good at that.
When did that movie come out?
2012. We would have been coming out of, I was graduating high school.
Okay. I'm trying to think, because was that okay? That was right when the Avengers movie came out, right? The same year.
Yeah, so the first Avengers movie.
That was my gripe back then. Was like how the Avengers was, like the MCU was building, and like every movie was connected, and I was like so focused on that, and like to see this guy like not be with. I mean, we hadn't even been introduced to the Tom Holland yet, but I always wanted everything to be connected. It was like so separate. So. Yeah,
something about like all these other superhero movies that have come out since the MCU. It's like it's like y'all just want to be included. It's like, hey, look at me over here. I can do it too, guys. Like I got superheroes. Like Nah, fam, we not on that right now. Like, stay over
Are you
there,
taking
like-
shots at Morbius? Is that
Yes,
what that?
yes,
is that
I
what
am.
Morbius, calling it right now, it's going to be the worst
Yes,
movie
yes, I am.
of 2023. That movie's going to
That
stink.
it looks awful, bro.
It's going to
it
be
just
ass.
looks bad.
I'm also
It looks
taking
bad.
shots at Zack Snyder and everything that he's done. Like,
He's
being
the
like, hey,
whole.
we can also do superhero team up. We'll do it in 3 movies. Actually, we don't need 10.
Actually, yeah, we'll show you broke boys how it's done over there.
Yeah, we'll get to the Justice League immediately.
Oh God, the
can name that
hubris.
song in 3 movies.
Oh, fuck those movies. I'm sorry.
Y'all watched the Snyder cut. I don't want to hear. Y'all watched it.
Better.
It's
than
better.
the
It's a
original
better
Justice
movie.
League. But it's like this still shouldn't have happened this quickly. Like, why?
I
No,
didn't
fuck
watch
out of here.
none of that Snyder cut. Fuck Snyder.
4
Also,
hours.
While we're still talking about other
Ugh.
superhero movies, real quick, Wonder Woman fucking stinks. I'm sorry, y'all lied.
All right, turn that up. That is facts. That is fact. Y'all lied about that first film, and I'm tired of hearing the lies, bro.
Y'all lied
I'm
about the
so
first
tired of the
film,
lies.
and it gave us the second film, so you should all feel bad about it. That's what
I
I'm
fell
saying.
asleep on
I-
Wonder Woman 1 3 times, and I said, "What am I doing? Why am I torturing myself like this? Like, what? This shit is boring as hell, bro. Like, what are we doing?"
Oh God, I liked that first Wonder Woman. I'm not gonna lie.
You are the problem. You're why Wonder Woman 84 exists.
I'm not why Wonder Woman 84 exists. Not I. That movie made $1 billion. You're not gonna blow this
What
on
happened
me.
in the first Wonder Woman?
Nothing. But like
Nothing.
She
Absolutely
fights
nothing.
The god of war or whatever.
she fights in World War One, and her
Oh,
the
yeah,
dude
that's
she
right.
has sex with one time dies.
Captain America: The First Avenger is what happens in
That's
Wonder
what it
Woman
was.
1.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, quite literally. A movie that's also bad. But the the Wonder Woman 1984 is one of the worst movies I think I've ever seen.
I bet
I
you
was-
that shit's gonna be better than Morbius. Morbius looks
Ooh.
awful.
Honestly, though, truly.
Oh, not you defending Jared Leto all of us, or trashing Jared Leto all of a sudden, Teach.
Never happens on this
Listen,
podcast.
I love Jared Leto.
Wow.
Morbius looks like the worst movie I've ever seen.
All
thank
right.
you.
All right. So we got Amazing Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man. Here's where it's going to kind of get little tension here.
Mm.
I went back and I watched the first Spider-Man. It's not as good as you remember it being.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying this.
It is.
I'm
not-
fine. I'm fine with it being in this spot. I also just rewatched it. I love it so much, but I'm fine with it being in this spot. Although I would say I think that Homecoming and Spider-Man 1 are about the same level of quality, and I love both.
Ooh, ooh,
Mm.
I love both.
I can't do it.
What
I
was
love
your
both.
gripe with the first Spider-Man?
It's just so cheesy and corny. And like part of that is like on purpose, but
All
also
right,
some of it is just they had no idea what they were doing in 2002 when it came to making a superhero movie. And so like you can't really tell if it's like cheesy because they were doing it to be cheesy or if it like Sam Raimi just had no idea how bad like some of
I
the
don't
shit
know. I
actually
feel
was.
he knew what movie he was wanting to make, but just like you go back and you watch it and it's like, is this what we needed to do with this character? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
But it's
it
like-
very much feels like it's off of the page of a Marvel comic. You know what I mean?
How honest can we be in this segment of this podcast
Very.
that we're doing right
What?
now? Okay. The reason why the first Spider-Man and to some extent the second Spider-Man suffer is because Kirsten Dunst is not a good MJ. She is bad. She is not good. She
That's
is
fair.
not doing anything good. And every time she's on screen, which is a whole lot in that first film, it is not an enjoyable experience. That's what really brings the movie down for me. I just watched it last week and I was like, man,
You know
I'm
what brings
sorry.
it down? You know what brings it down for me is that they're all like 35.
Yeah. I think what separates Tom Holland and his supporting cast from all the other ones is like they all look like they're in high school.
Yeah.
except Ned, kind of. Ned, like
Joe
have you seen-
Joe
Toby walked into a
Manganiello.
high school with a receding hairline. Like, what are we doing?
Joe Manganiello is in that film. He is the oldest person I've ever seen in
I
anything
agree on that
ever.
one.
He looks like Max von Sydow compared to like some of these people. Like he looks so old, and he's just like there's just grown men fighting in a high school in the first Spider-Man. It's crazy. And really, like Tom Holland is approaching the age now of what Tobey Maguire was in that first Spider-Man.
First one, yeah.
But Andrew Garfield was older in the first He was 28 when he got the first Spider-Man role.
But he didn't look old.
No, he didn't. They all look like they all have mortgages. They all
old as shit. They're like they even try to make it look like they go to high school.
Yeah, that's my problem with it. But it's campy for all of the reasons. Like it, and I said this. It feels like Sam Raimi literally took it off the page of a Marvel comic and like put it on. Now, like some of the choices that they make, like still using CGI when like, ooh, buddy, it wasn't there yet. It wasn't there yet.
Right.
Also, Sam Raimi just loves that like woman screaming sound effect. He just throws it in just all the time. Yeah.
Kirsten Dunst lived next door to Tobey Maguire. And the whole time I was thinking, y'all are the same level of attractiveness. Well, I don't know why you're so scared of this woman, bro. This is not, you're not shooting out of your league here. She's literally in your league, in your gym, and you're just scared. I didn't understand that. What she looks like Kirsten Dunst. Like, no offense to Kirsten Dunst, but like you can shoot your shot, bro. Go ahead. Like, at least give it a try. It's not like he was shooting a shot at somebody that was the most gorgeous woman in the world. They're like,
Yeah,
how can I even think that she
over there?
Yeah, like what are we doing?
A
Shoot your
podcast
shot,
that I listen to called The Weekly Planet. Y'all should go and listen to. They break down all the comic book movies, but they said something that I really appreciated that the first two Spider-Man franchises do that this doesn't. These Spider-Man franchises don't really do is that people just hate Peter Parker for no reason. Like they just actively are like they just actively despise this guy even though he hasn't done anything wrong. And in this, like he just has a couple of friends in the MCU version. In the other movies, they actively hate that Peter Parker.
That first scene where he gets bit by the spider, his entire class is just shitting on him for like 10 minutes. I'm like, Jesus Christ,
what has he
done? Do to everybody?
Yeah, who are you to these people, bro? Like, what
Yeah, I always find that funny.
Even the bus driver wouldn't stop. Remember, the bus driver driving off on him.
He's been chasing us for 10 blocks. All right, so Spider-Man 1. Not No Way Home. I guess Homecoming.
I would put Homecoming here, and then I would put Spider-Man 2 on the other side.
I would put Far From Home here. I think Homecoming is better.
Ooh.
What?
I like Far From Home more than Homecoming, to be completely honest.
Me too.
with you.
Am I the only one? Apparently, this is a hot take.
Well,
My
I
bad.
mean, state your case. Like, why is that the case?
I feel
I
like
had
the
them
villain
equal.
is. I feel like the
Go
villain
ahead.
is better in Homecoming, and I don't know, something about like the Spider-Man just starting out with Homecoming just kind of puts it over the top for me. Far From Home is great. I love all those movies. I like Mysterio and what they did with some of the fight scenes and that, but something about Vulture and like the way that it ties back to the rest of the MCU, how grounded it all feels. Like he doesn't have, glasses that can drone strike people. Like, I appreciate like that. I don't know. I just like Homecoming a little bit more than Far From Home, even though I do love both of those movies.
Sadly, you're
I had them-
outweighed.
I had them tied going into my last I watched them both before I went to go see this new movie. I had them about tied in my head. I don't know if I've ever made a decision, but I came away thinking that Far From Home is like a good amount ahead of Homecoming. And I love Homecoming. I'm not trying to shit on it, but Far From Home is just when you're getting into the stuff that Mysterio is doing with his mind and the way that they show that on screen, it is so cool. Kind of like what they did with the Doctor Strange thing. And this is kind of like what they did Doctor Strange and No Way Home. Those scenes are so cool. And it's also cool to see Spider-Man like web sling through the suburbs because it's like a play against type. Like, oh, I get it. There's no tall buildings here. But seeing him like in another dimension where Mysterio has him in absolute hell, it was just so cool to see.
Man, had that boy shook.
So there's just something about that scene where you realize that Vulture is the hot chick's dad, and the whole theater just like, ooh, like something about that just so fucking good. Just always sticks in my memory.
Also, that being Batman, like
Yeah,
a former Batman.
it's so good. Like, yeah, I love Homecoming, but it's gotta be here. It's gotta be here. There's another one that I'm gonna be outweighed on coming up. So
so
I'm
you
taking my
said
L on this one, but
you said you would put Spider-Man 2 like there. I am of the opinion people call Spider-Man 2 one of the best, if not the best, comic book movie ever. I have never seen that. I don't know what.
It's not the best comic book movie ever.
It's not. But like, I don't like. People say it is, and they rank it as the best Spider-Man film ever. Obviously, but like,
it's not that either.
I just don't know. Where do y'all sit with that, Deontay? Do you have any like?
I can't even remember. Well, that's when we got Alfred Molina and Doc Ock, but I can't remember what, like you said, how it would be ranked up there. What significant?
Yeah, what's so special about it?
Particular movie to make it special. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was trying to say. Like, I mean, I don't know.
A lot of groundbreaking visual effects in that movie. I will say that. I think that.
And then I do remember my favorite part from that movie, that scene, of course, was
isn't that the train?
Yes, exactly.
That was fucking amazing, guys. Don't do that. We're not gonna shit on it.
Yeah,
I'm not shitting on it. I'm just like, I don't know.
Is incredible to watch.
Like, I don't know what puts it. Like, people rank it literally like the best superhero movie ever, and I just don't.
They've never seen The Dark Knight. Those people have never seen The Dark Knight. That's what happened.
Fair, but like, yeah. I would probably, to me, I would put Spider-Man 2 at right here. What would y'all do?
Wait, what did we put below it? We had Homecoming there.
We had Homecoming, and then I would put Spider-Man 2 and then Far From Home. People are going to shit on us, but like,
I agree with that order. That order.
Let's do that.
Okay, Spider-Man 2. People are going to be like, "Are you serious?" But yeah,
and the real fight is at the top.
Yeah. Now we're here, right? This is it.
Okay,
we only have 2 movies left.
No Way Home. So it goes. We have Far From Home, and then now we got a debate. We are, Deontay, including the Spider-Verse. Me and Tej are saying that I think that this, I don't know if Tej is going to say this. I think Spider-Verse is the best Spider-Man, if not one of the best comic book movies I think I've ever seen in my entire life.
Agreed. I would put it number 1.
I cannot get there. I can't
get there either, man.
Okay,
really?
We're tied.
Damn it!
Thank you. Okay,
so y'all, we wouldn't be tied.
Y'all gotta tell me what's so like. I enjoyed Spider-Verse. Don't get me wrong. I'm not shitting on it. I'm not saying it was like secretly trash.
Black Spider-Man gets a multiplier bonus. Everybody knows this.
I mean, yeah, cool, but I'm like, people. Since the day that movie came out, people were like, "Oh, this is the best animated movie of all time. This is the best comic book movie of all time. This is the best Spider-Man movie of all time." Blah blah blah. I saw it in theaters like 2 or 3 times. I enjoyed it every time. Visuals are like amazing. Like the story is really cool. We hadn't gotten the multiverse to that point. It was really great. But beyond that, I'm like, I don't get all the like the superlatives for it. I understand the hype and why everybody should go see it. Like I said, I went and saw it in theaters 2 or 3 times, but like greatest comic book movie of all time, greatest animated movie of all time. Why? Like what's so special?
Because of the way they drew Kingpin. That is the coolest representation of Kingpin.
A tiny ass head.
So huge.
Look like old boy from Minions.
Yeah. I'll say this, and Tej, maybe I mean, if you want to take over, you can. When I saw, because I went into that blind, because Sony they just didn't push that movie at all. Like it and Far From Home came out at near the same time, and Sony was just like, we're just gonna push the live action one, whatever. And so I kind of went in blind. I had seen that it got like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I was like, no way. And I went in blind, and I'm like, wait, why is it blurry? You know? Oh, then you sort of slowly figure out, oh, it looks like the pages of a comic book. I had never seen the animation style of that before. I had never like the Phil Lord and Chris Miller humor within that movie is spectacular. And we give all the superlatives to 21 Jump Street. So why not give it to this as well? Like it just had this irreverence and understanding of the source material of what movie they were making. I'd never seen anything like it. I quite literally had never seen anything that looked like this movie before. And that, to me, was one of the things that I keep going back to. Also, one of the best soundtracks I think I've ever heard in my entire life.
Soundtrack
That soundtrack, like, you can just play like in your car driving to work. But like it had heart, it had humor, it had a great understanding of what it was trying to do. It had an incredible voice cast as well. And I just think it was just unlike it. I just keep going back. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen, ever, to that point.
Agreed. So we're tied though. We're gonna have 2 first place movies and then a third place movie because we're all the way locked up. We don't have a deciding vote.
Yeah. I mean,
You can't go wrong. They're both phenomenal. So
right.
there really is no wrong answer
about Spider-Verse. Well, I totally agree with, and then like I don't have any argument against that. I don't know if I'm just a prisoner of the moment that we all just saw this movie, but I don't know, man. Just bringing back like the nostalgia and everything we talked about with Far From Home, or excuse me, No Way Home. Like I think what gets it for me is just like you would never think 10 years ago watching Tobey Maguire or, however long it was with Andrew Garfield, seeing them all together with Tom Holland on the screen and it working as well as it did in live action. Like, I just think that just like puts it over the top for me, at least. Like like,
for me, it's like
you would see
they pulled off so much shit that like plays on like what we've actually seen in real life. Like that, it just kind of like it just takes it to another level. Like the way that they like basically single-handedly changed people's opinion on the Amazing Spider-Man movies that we just shat on, like like not 10 minutes ago. They were like, okay, we can fix that, and they did it. Like with this one movie, like something about that just feels like so much more significant and important to me. But
I will say, and not to interrupt you, but I will say that with No Way Home too, I was saying with the Spider-Verse, it's something that I had never seen before. We ain't ever seen anything like No Way Home, to be completely honest. To take actors from multiple, and maybe some film nerd will be like, this gangster movie did it or whatever. And I guess they kind of this is like
The
Irishman for Spider-Man movies.
The Irishman, No Way Home.
Yeah. The Irishman, Old Folks Home.
The movie that stinks. Old Folks Home.
The nursing home. Spider-Man nursing home. The thing with this is it really did something in cinema that we really hadn't seen, in that they spent the money to bring in generations of the same character to like to play. And that's nothing. We literally have never seen that ever. And it obviously takes 2 decades of world building and movies to have done that. But like, to be able to do that and it not be the fact that this movie, and I said I was hedging my bets, but to be honest, now that like I've had like 3 drinks and I'm sitting here going, the fact that this movie wasn't a mess is incredible.
Yeah, this movie could have been just batshit insane.
Yeah.
Or it could have been just the most boring shit ever, where like we said, they just have glorified.
Hi, I'm Toby.
cameos.
Hi, I'm Andrew. Yeah.
Oh shit, that's Tobey Maguire. Remember him? Bye. Like, nah, they actually like paid off on 20 years of real life world building. Like, and they pulled it off. So to me, I would have it number 1. If we got to have a tie with the Spider-Verse, I'm willing to take the L on that. That's fine. But
I will keep Spider-Verse up there. I'm not going to waver on that. It's really close now that we were talking about it, because like Spider-Verse is a movie, and this is going to be one of those movies too. Like I can go back and watch Captain America, Winter Soldier over and over and over again. Like Spider-Verse is one of those movies, and now No Way Home is going to be one of those movies that I think I can watch probably like I can just pop it on. Like it will be one of those MCU movies for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right, real quick to wrap it up. What are we most excited for? I know we're 2 hours into this podcast. What are we most excited for going forward? We got Multiverse of Madness. Have you seen Shang-Chi, Deontay?
Yes.
What do you think of Shang-Chi?
I liked it, man. I think it was one of the better.
And then the Eternals. Wrap that up. We'll do that.
Eternals, man. I enjoyed it. But
No, you didn't.
No,
it-
that
I think
shit was.
it started strong, but I didn't like the ending. I think the ending, it kind of just drug along and kind of, I don't know, especially for a movie where a lot of people don't know who they are. I think it could have done a better job of kind of, it probably would have served better to be a show, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know I
That's
took my wife
Marvel
to see
fatigue, the movie.
Yeah.
That's
I
Marvel
took my
fatigue,
wife
the
to
movie right there.
see it, and she fell asleep for an hour and a half. So that's how she felt.
Yeah,
I like the Eternals. I saw it twice, and I thought it was cool. Am I gonna, be dying to see it again when it drops on Disney Plus? No, of course not. But to go see it in the theaters, it's a good time. I appreciated it for what it was in the moment. We'll see what they do with the sequels. Keep Harry Styles away from me, please. But beyond that, nothing to complain about from me.
It looks pretty, the movie.
What if Justice League was a little bit better?
No, Deontay, real quick, where do you want to see them go? What do you hope for coming up? Obviously, you said you're really excited about Multiverse of Madness. Thor is coming out pretty soon too. What are you excited for in this universe going forward? I know you're real tuned into all this stuff.
Yeah, I think Multiverse of Madness is about to be crazier than people realize. Like this is just a teaser as far as what we saw in No Way Home. I think the cameos in this, I think we're about to get everything that we want, or we mentioned earlier in the podcast, as far as X-Men. I think they're coming from the Fox, like the same characters from the Fox universe.
You think the same characters from the Fox universe they'll bring over?
I think at least we're getting Hugh Jackman.
Really?
Prediction. I think
I will die. Yeah, I'll die.
I think he's gonna be there, man. I think we'll get Magneto in Multiverse of Madness. I think they just about to go crazy, man. Especially seeing how
because isn't Magneto supposed to be the parent of Wanda?
Right. Yeah. And I think on just the level of cameos, I think you had mentioned earlier about the different reshoots that they're going through right now. I think they're finna add a crap ton of cameos of different variants. Like we learned about variants in Loki and how that works. I think they're just about to go crazy in this movie. I'm most excited for that one. I don't really know what else is coming out, or off the top of my head, I don't know what else is coming out in 2022, because I know they did a lot of movements with the movies. The next one I'll probably be most excited about is Ant-Man 3, because I think
Quantumania.
Yeah, I think Kang is supposed to be in that, and Jonathan Majors is amazing. So,
man, Jonathan Majors was like, he's like one of those stats from like Kareem where he's like, where he's putting up.
Yeah.
I had to run. Someone is at my house, says Tej. Okay. Hope nobody is robbing you. All right. So we'll wrap this up. Deontay, where can they find your work? And you've been putting up bars at Our Daily Bears. Where can they find what you're doing?
I appreciate it. Yeah, just got on with ODB. Shout out to my guy Dex helping me going on there, and
yes, sir.
And Evan and Matt, of course. If you're a Baylor fan and you also enjoy Marvel content, I dropped an article this week. Baylor Bears is Marvel Cinematic.
Fantastic.
Appreciate that, man. It's really cool. Check it out if you get the chance. Also do a podcast, sports and nerdy podcast, the Duo Sports and Stuff podcast, on all platforms as well. Check that out. Man, that's about it. Got a little documentary I'm helping work out on, which is about the 91 state. I think I mentioned this to you when I was trying to get footage for that. The 91 state title team for Killeen High, that's coming out in the spring, so that should be cool. But yeah, man, just trying to work.
A peek behind the curtain. You text me and I looked into our archives. When you go and you look into our archives, it's like all the way until 1992. Like, oh, okay. Like you can't go just that far back. It's crazy.
Like, oh, we actually got a good team in the area. Maybe we should start this year.
Exactly. No, but Deontay, thank you for coming on. Dex, where can they buy all the dopest Houston merch?
You can buy all the dopest Houston merch, same place you can read the best movie reviews at ApolloHOU.com. Me and Royden are up there dropping bars now. Royden put out reviews for Power of the Dog.
A movie which stinks.
A movie that fucking stinks. People this Oscar season are going to tell you the Power of the Dog is one of the best movies of the year. They are lying.
Oh, buddy.
False. They are wrong.
Ooh.
It's on Netflix if you want to watch it. I don't know why you would, but you know what? Apparently, I don't know shit. Everyone else loves that movie.
Are we dumb, Dex? Are we stupid?
Apparently, we just don't understand the subversive Western, but not Western villainy of Benedict Cumberbatch. Whatever. Fuck that movie. Also, fuck Licorice Pizza. You can read my review of that. I gave it a D. It's about pedophilia. I hate it. If you like it, you're wrong. Fight me. Don't care. Right, and also dropped a review of Harder They Fall, a movie that's actually good.
People didn't like what you had to say about that.
Ooh, yeah. People were. By the way, if you come at us about Licorice Pizza, which people have been coming at Dex and One Take Pod about what Licorice Pizza, just know you're very weird and bad.
You're weird and bad. You should feel bad. Paul Thomas Anderson's not gonna fuck you because you're not a 15-year-old. So leave us alone. All right.
Lord. I mean, look, there have been several people in our mentions about Licorice Pizza being like, oh, actually, we should be able to display these things on screen. Why?
Why? For what? For who? Why did we do that?
For whomst?
What was the reason?
Whomst is this for? Anyway,
ApolloHOU.com. You can read all of our content. You can buy Apollo merch. We're working on a new Support Florence Pugh shirt. Hopefully that'll drop soon. We are working. And if anything's too expensive for you, you can use promo code OneTakePod, ONETAKEPOD, 10% off. It's super great. Shop
also, support Florence Pugh because she is in Hawkeye, by the way, not to spoil some spoils. Oh, hello. What is I'm gonna stop this live stream for Tej.
Stop barking.
Bye, Tej. Bye. All right. You can follow us at One Take Pod on Twitter, One Take Podcast on YouTube, One Take Podcast on Instagram as well. Go follow us there, all those social platforms, One Take Podcast. I need to post more on TikTok, by the way, because people are like on red carpets now doing movie reviews from TikTok. I need to do that.
I'm gonna leave that up to you, my guy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna need to do that. All right. You can follow us at One Take Podcast. Dex, one more time. What are we doing?
#support Florence Pugh, baby.
All right, we're out.